No.
All right, good afternoon. It is 4:36 on October 13th. We're going to call this regular meeting for the workshop, the town of Grand Lake, to order. There it is. Thank you. As you can see, we're absent 2 trustees right now. Rest are in attendance. Thank you for being here. We will hopefully have 1 trustee joining us around 6 o'clock and only 1 absent during the 6 o'clock meeting. Elena?
Excuse me. Do we have a presentation from Ayers yet? For this workshop?
Yeah, we have, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, from work for the workshop, no, I never got anything from the workshop in Paris. Was this in regards to the food truck discussion?
It is.
I thought he said he wasn't gonna send anything, that it was just a discussion. Was always sent this last deal.
We will, Elena, if you would do roll call for me.
Conflict with interest,
Yes, please, thank you.
Left emails,
Here.
any conflicts?
Oh, no conflicts.
Trustee Arson,
No conflicts.
Trustee Cassell? No conflict. Mayor Pro Tem Sylvan,
No conflicts.
and Mayor Perkins.
I have none, thank you. Items for discussion today, we have the Grand County Wildlife Council and food truck discussion on the agenda. Grand County Wildlife has decided to postpone their workshop item until, I guess, we have snow on the ground, which may very well be Saturday, so hopefully we'll be hearing from them soon. Next, we have the food truck discussion, and I suppose we can open that up to those that are here to discuss food trucks.
I'll give a little bit of a recap, if that's okay. Earlier this summer, we spoke with the board about consideration of food trucks in the town of Grand Lake. That discussion led to a lot of what ifs, and we had asked Ayers Associates to give us some outlines of other towns and the work and the different kind of ordinances that were available. And what we have learned during that time was that a number of people from our business community don't think that it's a very good idea. As a result, petitions have been circulated discussing the negative impacts that food trucks may have in the town of Grand Lake to the existing businesses and what that cost would be at the benefit of additional tax and revenues. So I am waiting on Ayers Associates on the item. I didn't want to delay the conversation. I think it's important to note that currently food trucks are not allowed in the town of Grand Lake, except as a conditional use on private property.
There you go. Making the word.
New phone, it listens to everything. The purpose of this meeting was really to help inform the board as to what the public feels about it here, and to have an open conversation about the benefits, to consider, should we allow them on public property under a permit that's restricted? Should we not allow them at all? Should we put in guardrails to ensure that we don't have any? There are lots of towns that use food trucks to activate previously inactive areas, coupling it with a bar. So there are lots of food trucks that are around the country and around this county. So we wanted to have a discussion and see what everybody thought about it.
So, discussion. If anybody would like to come up, state your name and address for the record and let us know what you have to say.
Actually, Sean, 321, where I'm at. I wrote a little something on. Get it up here. First of all, I just kind of want to express how much, like, I feel like this is kind of, it just feels like it hurts the businesses that stay open year round. And, you know, I would like to just challenge you guys to think about, you know, every dollar that is spent on a food truck that comes out just to help out the busy times, as a dollar that goes away from the business that stays here. And, you know, I'm sure you guys know, I lose money being open every winter. And I do it for the community. And if I start to not have these big swings on like the busy weekends, then I'm gonna have to reconsider if I can afford to stay open in the winter. And it's just a huge deal to me. And I think that if we just open it up to have people come up on, you know, whatever weekend sounds really good, it's just like a lot of people are gonna take advantage of it, you know, but they're not locals and they're not gonna be people that are trying to further Grand Lake, and it's been the mission so long for us to be known the Four Seasons destination. But this is gonna hinder or actually scare people away from wanting to open up year round, in my opinion. I'd like to hear what other people have to say. I'm obviously biased because I've got two businesses in town. But I also think I'm a good member of the community, and this would really, really hurt me. And I really strongly encourage you guys and challenge you guys to just think about that. You know, every dollar spent at a food truck from out of the county is a dollar that's not going to someone that stays here. So I'll leave it like that. I'll let anybody else talk and we can go from there. But thank you.
Thank you, Baxter. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Bradley Hilton, 517 Shadow Mountain Drive. So I didn't see the petition that was circulated. Blake and I own True Penny Pit Stop, which was given a conditional use permit in 2021, I believe, to operate on private property out of a food trailer. Baxter, you voted to approve our conditional use permit during that time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you actually, Baxter, it sounds like you're more concerned with businesses operating seasonally rather than food trucks operating. It's more about the seasonal nature of the business more so than.
Absolutely. I love what you guys do, and you're parked in town, you stay there. What I'm scared of is someone coming up on 4th of July and then leaving, and then.
So like,
you know, so if people were to stick around and be a part of the community, I think that's great. I think where I get nervous and scared is that people can come up and, you know.
yeah, they can open on the busy weekends.
Yeah, you know, take away from us that, you know, are here on the slow weekends too.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I see your point. But that, it still sounds like more of a discussion that is about the seasonality of a business operating, how long their season is. And versus whether they're operating out of a brick and mortar or out of a truck or a trailer. Cause I don't think that a truck or a trailer, in my mind, doesn't mean that has to be seasonal. I think that if curated the correct way, with the correct incentives and the right exposure, that the business that's not brick and mortar could operate 4 seasons here. So we need to stay open-minded about that.
Yeah, I guess what my issue is like how long they'd be there. I just think if people come up just for the weekend and then leave, you know, that's where I get offended.
Sure.
But you know, putting your trailer down and like staying somewhere and, you know, being a part of the community, I think is amazing. And I
Yeah.
don't think that a brick and mortar is what like makes that real, you know, if it's on wheels or if it's, you know, under a tent or what, that's not my issue. It's the,
Temporary nature, maybe. Yeah.
yep.
So I mean, so I guess that's a good point moving forward with the discussion. I don't know what discussions the board has had up to this point, really,
Very little.
very little, right? So, you know, so do you have that petition here with you? Okay.
We've submitted it to the town
Is it-
along with 134 signatures.
And I have those, I can get the copy for you. I
Yeah,
have
just
my
do the
copy
language
right
of it.
here that I've scribbled on it, so
Yeah.
I don't wanna give it to you, but we can definitely, here's what I can do. Is,
So I know I walked in late. Are you saying these food trucks you're proposing year round? Is that what you're proposing? And will they be paying real estate taxes as the brick and mortars and Town of Grand Lake and Three Lakes Water and everything that brick and mortars do? Are you proposing that they're gonna be on a permanent location where they're paying everything the brick and mortars are paying? I'm just trying to catch up. I apologize.
I'm just showing him the QR code and I'll leave it here in front of Elena if anybody wants to,
I'm not proposing anything.
you have.
I was just continuing the discussion after Baxter spoke, and I think the main point I got out of his comment was the concern for businesses operating on such a seasonal and temporary basis that they are capitalizing on our biggest weekends where the businesses in town who are here most of the time, at least for the extent of the summer, maybe year round, can actually make enough money to survive for the winter based on a couple busy weekends in the summer, right? So
Correct.
I would understand that maybe we wouldn't give a business license to somebody who's gonna operate on such a short-term basis. But then again, we've been having chili cook-off and craft vendors and whatever other events come in on busy weekends, Buffalo barbecue. And that's kind of a pretty good example of that. People are setting up in the park, capitalizing on busy weekends and then heading out of town, right? Do you feel that those events affect our businesses in town enough to?
Absolutely,
to
they
stop
do.
them?
I'm not saying stop them,
Yeah,
but absolutely they do. And we've been dealing with that. What
Yeah.
we're talking about, and I don't know what Baxter has said, we've heard a lot of talk of bringing in food trucks during the summer. That's 4 months. That's our season. We have 4 months. Bringing in food trucks to give other options, alleviate the businesses from being overwhelmed and not having a 3-hour wait. And those are what we are discussing today. You bringing in those outside vendors to take a portion of our revenue is taken away from what we're trying to make to continue to do business the other 8 months of the year when they're all gone. and they
Leona.
don't.
Excuse me, just if you don't mind, if you would come up to the mic, state your name and address. so that we have
Absolutely.
your voice on record. With the speakers that we have now in the ceiling, we can hear you, but I just would like to clarify
Let me finish for
on the
just
record.
30
that
seconds.
You
No, absolutely. I was not planning on talking until the meeting.
Well, no, and,
We'll
and
continue.
you can absolutely continue, so one of you can have this mic here and, the other can sit in the front row because there's speakers right above you, so we can continue.
I'll
I
let
just
you
want you to
stay
say
address.
Oh,
your name and address.
yeah, but I wait till the meeting is what I was preparing for. I was coming in to listen to see what was going on. Didn't think you were talking about it right away, because.
Just for the record, though, we just need you to state your name, just so it's on record.
For the record, Leona Kettle. Physical address, 325 Mountain, but I also have a business at 1143 Grand Avenue. So, dual,
Thank you,
business and home.
thank you very much.
You're
And feel
You
free,
can stay, like, speaking. So,
and Leona, if I could just say, so you know, the previous workshop item that we had has postponed. So this entire time, we have the ability to discuss this item. So if you want to talk now, great, because we have time, and you can also talk again when during the meeting, there will be a different audience, maybe some of the same, but just so you know.
Thank you. We're just trying to circumvent it going any further. We know it's been talked about, but before it comes to a vote, we want you all to hear the people's voice, the other people's voice that you don't hear in the meeting all the time, because we don't come all the time. And the workshop, like I said, I was just gonna sit in and listen and do my thing at the actual meeting.
Sure.
But we do have a lot to say.
Great.
And I don't want to take up all your time because I know I'm slotted in the meeting. I apologize. Go
Okay,
ahead.
no problem. I'll just say a couple other things, to have on the record, so. As Steve mentioned at the top of this item, as it sits right now, the only way to say
Yes, it is.
out of a brick and mortar. Sorry, not inside of a brick and mortar, but out of a truck or trailer is through a special use permit, correct? I think that with True Penny Pit Stop was maybe one of the first special use permits of its type to get granted for what we're doing with that business. The second one that was granted is Taco About It out of their truck that's in the parking lot at Lone Eagle Lodge. So in reality, what we've experienced so far with food trucks in this town has been those two businesses, which I would argue have contributed a lot to the community. They've brought things that weren't operated, they've operated outside of hours where other businesses aren't operating things. Example. So I think that's what we have to go off of is, well, what's our experience so far with food trucks in this town? And I know that they are not operating on public property, and so that's a different conversation. But Blake and I worked really hard to bring that concept to the night here across the street in the original location. And we were very thankful for the town to work with us and believe in our vision to make that a reality. And I think it's continued to contribute to what Grand Lake has to offer. And we hope to continue to evolve that business and be a part of the town for a long time to come. So I would just encourage everyone to have an open mind about this and not a little bit of competition and some fresh energy and someone who needs to, maybe doesn't have the means to start out of a leased space or a purchased property, a business, I think can still contribute. And I think we need that type of diversity and those types of fresh ideas and that type of energy in this town. So that 10-20 years down the road that we have, additional businesses open year round and offering additional things than they have for many years up to this point. So that's what I have to say of it now.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
And I did want to make a clarification, Neil, I mentioned this at the beginning of the workshop. You and Baxter have slotted time to make a presentation. There won't be any conversation by the board. That's what this time is for. So if you're hoping for conversation with the board, this will be the time to be able to do that.
Well, I'd be more than happy to do that right now.
You won't after me.
Okay, Nick.
So I do know you for a long time. You may be up here a long.
Oh, yeah, Nikki, you got it,
And
baby.
board members, I did want to just remind you this as a workshop is that you can talk back and forth.
John Rourke, AKA Mickey, 1015 Mountain Avenue, full-time resident, 12 months a year. Okay. I'm very disappointed that there's no locals who don't have businesses. I do not have a business in town. I'm not gonna stand up here as a business owner. They have enough problems and I don't need to know what they are. But as a citizen of Grand Lake, first of all, I want to know where the trucks are gonna go. We used to have a big parking lot. That's gone. Where are you gonna put them? Main Street? I'd love to know where. Is it gonna be only in commercial areas? Are you gonna put food trucks in residential areas? Are you gonna put food trucks by the school? And if somebody wants a food or something, they have to go there. I don't think what happens if they park on Main Street? They're kind of long. I don't know if there's enough room for another car to get by on Main Street. I know a lot of times when I'm riding my bike and there's just a regular pickup truck parked, between the end of that pickup truck and the center of the street is hardly enough room for another car to go by legally. It would be nice if the streets were a little wider, maybe they could fit. Now we have Park Avenue. And I guess you could let them take up 4 and 5 spaces. Things that bother me is where are they gonna let people go to the bathroom if you're serving food? Don't you need a toilet for these people? I mean, we have businesses in town that don't have bathrooms for their employees. And that's another topic. But food trucks parked, are they gonna have generators running 8 hours a day for power? How much are they gonna pay? Is it gonna be the same spot? Are they gonna be looking for a designated spot? Well, that's nice. We have businesses in town that pay $20,000 for a parking spot. Now, it may not be in front of their store, but it's somewhere in town. Are they gonna have to, besides a business license, are they gonna have to pay a parking for parking? It's a business. Gonna put them on the waterfront. I'm sure the businesses down there would love on the 4th of July to see nothing but wall-to-wall food trucks all the way down the street, bumper to bumper. And then again, where are their customers gonna go to the bathroom? Oh, there's public bathrooms. The public's for the public. The public bathrooms are not designated for businesses, business customers to use. Now, you can look that up, the difference between public bathrooms. That's just one of the things. Now, as far as food trucks, I do not have a problem with food trucks being on private property. That's their God-given right to go ahead out there and pay rent every month. I think they should be hooked up to electricity and pay for their electricity. Even if they're not open, they can still pay their $30 a month. Like other people do, just to be hooked up to electricity. And again, bathrooms, they can have porta potties. I'm not a believer in having an extension cord run to the truck. They should be on their own, not hooked up to another business. And again, it's gotta be in a commercial zone. You can't have that in a residential area. Or if you do decide to do that, I'd like permission to put a food truck on my corner, on my yard. If everybody else can do it, I'd like to do it too. Steve seen me cook roly-polies. You know, you're gonna have to really get down to the nitty-gritty into details on this, or you're gonna piss a lot of people off. Especially the homeowners too. If you can't, where are you gonna, I'm still into the parking thing, I can't get off it. Where are they gonna go? Nobody has said anything to me, petitions, this or that, food truck owners. Where are they gonna park? Now, if I had to have licensing, I would tell these people, well, you gotta show up 160 days a year. At least 4 hours. Maybe that's part of it, maybe it's not. Now, in the winter, when there's ice skating here and ice skating down there, maybe it would be nice to have a food truck when there's all these skates. I don't know, if there's going to be different teams coming up and doing ice hockey on regular days, not just our tournament, but just because we're gonna have it out here. Would that be good on weekends, you know, with the kids and the parents playing ice hockey? Maybe. Again, 3 parking spots. Where are they going to the bathroom? How much are they gonna pay? Is it $200 a day? Regardless of what it is? Is it the same spot every time? A designated spot? I don't understand how they could have designated parking spots and businesses in town who pay money for parking spots can't get them. That's enough. Thank you.
Leaders.
Unless somebody else wants to go first.
Lana, I would just like to state that to all the questions you have, Baxter or Leona, at this time, this was just something that was raised to us because we get phone calls. When we bring a food truck, do you allow a food truck? And we have nothing really written. We've never had them, so it's never been something we've had to deal with. Really get down to the nitty gritty of parking and bathrooms and code even. So that this discussion, this board, I don't even know our opinion. I don't even know my opinion. So it is truly a discussion. It is not something that the board has said no to or yes to. We're really here to listen. So it is a public discussion.
Well, and we appreciate that. And prior to this, months and months ago, we had heard that there was a discussion.
Very minor.
Well, but it impacted the town and we didn't have a chance to give our opinion or voice our, how we feel. And that is why we're here, is, yes, I know, it's not up for a vote. We have heard rumblings, we have heard talk about it. And we decided as a community, and it's primarily, well, your businesses, your second-time homeowners, whomever. We want to address it before it becomes
And we appreciate that.
to vote, and you haven't had a chance to hear us and how we feel about the whole thing. And a lot of good points have been brought up by many people that I have talked to. As I said, I had submitted a petition with 134 signatures, and there are more out there that I haven't been able to collect that have many more. And there are letters out there. I've even gotten a letter from Mountain Food Marts that I would love to share with you. So you can understand our position on this. Are we against food trucks? No, not at all. As long as they are associated with a brick and mortar. The brick and mortars that make this town, that support this town, that pay the taxes and the water bill and the electric bills to contribute to the community. Our grievance is with the outside vendors coming in and impacting our ability to make the revenue we need to support ourselves and the community for 12 months. And we have a 4-month window to do it. And when you take that away from us, it's a ripple effect. It doesn't just impact us. To give you an example, on a weekend that we're at full capacity, food trucks are not bringing in more people. They're only diverting the money that's being spent in the town. You have 10,000 people in here spending, say, $10,000 a day to the already existing businesses. Well, you bring in a food truck, and I have heard from other people, they have been impacted when you do something like that on a special occasion by 25 to 30%. And somebody's calling me on my phone, Leah. She cannot, anyway. So what happens is you're taking that revenue and you're diverting it from the brick and mortars and the ones that are here to food trucks that aren't here year round. You're not collecting any more tax dollars. You're still collecting, say, that $10,000. But now 7,000 goes towards the brick and mortars. And those servers that are expecting $1,000 a day, their income is reduced by 25%. They're not making tips on 1,000, they're making it on 750. The business owner says, I am not making enough revenue, so we're cutting your hours. Now you've impacted the service industry, the people who are here who are trying to make their income to pay their bills. It just goes on down the line. And then those businesses that do not make the revenue they need to make in a 4-month period can't stay open year round. So they close in the winter or shorten their hours. And what we're trying to say is we want our town to be a year-round sustainable town. We want us to focus on the winter activities, bringing in the revenue in the winter, rather than circumventing us and taking a portion of our summer revenue. Let's look at bringing in activities to entice people to come up in the winter. Who wants to go to a town on vacation that has 3 businesses open in the winter? Because those summer people didn't make their money, can't stay open in the winter. We've already got, 4 businesses that are empty shells that have been that way. Dairy King, Grandview Mountain Lodge, Wolfie's is now down. Why don't we focus on the winter business, bringing in year-round revenue, instead of taking away our summer revenue from outsiders? And those outsiders, now, to your point, True Penny, they're a part of the community. They're tied to a brick and mortar, whether it be the Gifts Unlimited or that resale shop over there. She's year round. She's part of the community. She contributes back. She gives money back by going to the grocery store, by paying her taxes, by paying her utilities. It's not a summer gig for her and she's out of here. And the other one, Taco About It, they're attached to Lone Eagle and they're part of a brick and mortar. We're not opposed to those. And I'm not even opposed to Baxter going down on the ice skating rink and selling burritos because it's helping a brick and mortar. The brick and mortars are our backbone. And if we hurt the backbone, we're hurting the town. or taking away from what this town is. We need to build on the town. We need to make it better. We need to ski joring, perfect example. Another winter activity that was a success. And it helps us get through our bumps in the wintertime to sustain, to keep open. I've been in business 10 years. And for 9 years, in order to keep my business afloat, I've had to take a loan just to stay open in the winter, to be here year round, because I believe in a year-round community. This is my first year not having to take a loan. If you hit me with a 25% deficit in the summertime, I won't be able to do that. After 10 years of clawing and scratching to keep alive, why would I want to go backwards? I don't. I'll give up. After 10 years, I'll give up. And you'll have yet another empty brick and mortar because we can't make ends meet. Lincoln, Mountain Food Mart. I'd love to read you this letter that he wrote, and he sums it up perfectly.
Just so you know, we all have it. You please read, but just so
Okay.
you know, the trustees have the full copy.
Good, and this is for the people in the audience. And by the way, Mickey, you brought up a lot of good points. Brick and mortars have had to pay for parking. Are the food trucks paying for the parking? No. Brick and mortars pay for their electric. Where are they getting their electricity? So you brought up a lot of good points, and I thank you. So from Lincoln, to whom it may concern, I want to express my concern about food trucks in Grand Lake. Now, mind you, we're making it very clear. It has nothing to do with brick and mortar associated food trucks. This is all outside vendors that take their profits and their proceeds out of our community and don't regenerate and contribute back in. Grand Lake is a difficult place to operate a profitable business. The seasonal nature of our local economy means that businesses make all their money in the summer and bleed money all winter. Those businesses that choose to stay open for the winter probably either break even or operate at a loss. Our business, Mountain Market, loses money all winter long, but we stay open out of our responsibility to serve our community and meet a need. While I'm not privy to the finances of other year-round businesses in town, I'm willing to bet that most of them feel a similar responsibility to serve our community and do so at a financial loss. It's those year-round business owners that donate to the community events, donate to local charities, pay property taxes, provide free goods and services to community members in need, and provide jobs to year-round residents that also struggle to survive in our seasonal community. I resent the notion that out-of-town food trucks could roll into town during the busiest times of the year, then roll out during the slow times. They're going to pirate the revenue that local year-round businesses need to continue operating all winter long. Sure, those food trucks will presumably pay a fee, collect sales tax, all of which will support town government, but they likely won't hire local employees and they won't give back to the community like local year-round businesses do. I'm sure that food trucks will bring a convenience and a variety to our local restaurant scene, but is that the most important thing? Do we care more about convenience and selection than we do about joining together as a community to support one another? I support food trucks that are connected to another local business or are run by year-round residents. I think True Penny and Taco About It are businesses that provide value to our community and should be allowed to operate. I would support more similar locally owned businesses that have a connection to our community. But to allow outside food trucks to roll in and make money during the busy season will only hurt local business owners and hurt residents that rely on the businesses for employment. And that's all we're fighting for. We're fighting for our town. We're fighting to be our community and not let somebody else come in and circumvent that and take away from that. That is why we have a town. That's why we have a town board. That's why we have a community. But if more and more businesses shut down, it's only gonna devastate us and it's gonna be a really hard time to come back from. It's a ripple effect. It won't happen tomorrow or the next day, but it will happen. We're already seeing it with some of the businesses that are closed and the empty locations. And you're not collecting sales tax revenue from them because they are closed. I propose we concentrate on getting us more of year round or even 4 months out of the winter, and we're starting to. Ryan with his fish or his pond hockey started with 8 teams, he's up to 80. Those are the things that will bring us longevity here and prosperity for all of us. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, no, I have one more other thing to say.
Sure, we're right ahead.
We are Grand Lake. Let's make us grand. Thank you.
I'll take a moment just to touch on one thing that you did speak about, and I know that this board has been so active in the last couple of years, bringing winter events to town. We see that, I think, for many of us, including myself, for those of you that don't know, my grandparents came in 1948, so I've been coming to Grand Lake my whole life. And I do remember a lot going on year round, and I remember a lot of snowmobiling when I was a kid. And my grandmother had the portrait of ski joring in her home, not either my grandmother or my mother, I can't remember, but I've seen it forever. And that was one of the things that we were so excited to bring here. And so we are working very hard to continue that winter business for the entire community and bringing people in from Denver and the tourists, and that's been one of our goals.
I have a lot of suggestions for you and I'd love to sit and talk with you.
I would love that. We'll have coffee. But excuse me, what I'd like to do now is kind of open it up to the board. Any things that you guys want to ask the business owners, discuss amongst yourselves, opinions, ideas, and we'll just kind of take the next few minutes to see what you guys might have to say, and then we can open it back up. I mean, we're still discussing, so.
This question for Steve, this is prior to my time, but completely different concept, but thinking about the stand-up paddleboard shop. And I'm assuming same process, conditional use permit,
Yeah.
XYZ, how did the community feel about that at the time? It's the same concept, very different industry, obviously, but just kind of want to see, how that was, how everyone felt about that at the time.
It was providing a need that there wasn't available at the time.
Yeah.
And on one of the discussion items later today is the lease of the kayak check that includes stand-up paddleboards on the new lease, because the stand-up paddleboard check is gone and there still exists a need. Now, realistically, that need has changed dramatically over the last 5 years, and that's one of the discussions that I had with the lessee, is what that change has impacted his business and what that looks like in the whole forward.
I mean, it's very easy for the town to say, you know what, we'll run kayaks and we'll run paddleboard shops at Headwaters Marina, but we really choose this path because it seems to be advantageous to us. Would you agree?
Correct. I did have the discussion with the marina manager about the stand-up paddleboards, and his comment was he felt he was effective at doing what he was doing. He felt that it negatively impact his business, and he felt that it was a benefit to have an additional one.
Anyone else?
I have one. And. Like I said. At this point, obviously we haven't made any decisions and we don't have anything on the table. But I was looking at, kind of thinking about town. And you mentioned, Leona, that, Sloopy's was closed and,
Here,
Dairy King, sorry, I'm Leona, tell me now. We've got about 6 or 7 restaurant spaces. That are closed until we don't know when, or that are only gonna be opening again in the spring. This is kind of twofold. One of my dislikes has always been that several, at least 6 retail shops close in the winter. I personally don't like that at all.
I'm with you on that.
And I have somewhat of the same feeling with the restaurant businesses. So in my mind, I kind of put that in the same category as the food trucks only coming in the summer. Part-time. You're only here to benefit yourself for a certain amount of time and then you pick up and leave. That has definitely crossed my mind because I see that currently happening with the retail and some of the restaurants that we have. Go ahead.
But those brick and mortars are still paying year-round taxes. They're still paying year-round sewer and water bills. They're still paying year-round town of Grand Lake.
If they own them, if they own the building.
If they're renting, they're contributing to it. The owner's still paying some of the locations, however, are incapable of being open. I'll give you a prime example, Sparky Shack.
Mhm.
They cannot be open in the winter. They are not winterized. You can't hold that against them,
Mhm.
but they're still paying property taxes
No,
for a year. So some of the businesses, Bob Scott, is incapable of being open in the wintertime.
absolutely.
Now, some of the newer locations, maybe they can. I don't know what you can do about that. They are still brick and mortar. They're still paying taxes. They're still contributing more than a food truck that comes in and does what? Cops a squat and pays rent for 6 months on what, town property?
No, I completely understand and agree and know all of that. But those are the things that many will discuss, in this conversation. So I like and appreciate your feedback on that. My other question to you would be a little bit bigger one and not necessarily just food trucks, but when we discuss the buildings that are capable of being open in the winter, not the Bob Scott, not Sparky's. Do you, or have any of you ever considered that those businesses should be held to a standard of being open so many days a year?
I do.
And to say that this has been something I've thought about. We can't ask certain businesses that don't have the infrastructure. There are always the one-offs that's not possible until the building is reconstruction or something else is built in its place. But the ones that are able, or restaurants that come into those brick and mortar buildings, do you guys feel that this is something the town should consider?
I think so.
Because other towns, yes, I'm asking, because this is something that's been brought up to me. And this is something that I've just looked into at 3 o'clock in the morning, awake at night. Do other towns do this? And there are towns that do. I don't know that it's right for us. This is just purely a question because I have been asked this question. So I'd like feedback, because I think it does fall into the restaurant food truck discussion in the bigger picture.
Go ahead, Nikki.
So If you don't have employees, how do you run a business? You just can't do it all. We'll use restaurants. Better. We'll use the old Lariat, not the new Lariat. We'll use the old Lariat. Gene, I know personally Gene Stover would save up $80,000 to $100,000 every year to get through the winter, to keep his employees, pay them. You'd walk into the Lariat, it'd be empty. Except for me and a couple other people, but it'd be empty. And it was happy hour. Whenever that door opened up, it was happy hour for every local that would come in. And they would come in. And then on the weekends, the prices would come up and the snowmobilers would come in. And the bartenders and stuff would make their money in tips. But how many places could do that? I mean, especially if you're renting, you know, how can you do that? And to tell them, well, then you can't have a business in Grand Lake unless you're open 9 months a year. I'd like to see that in court.
No, absolutely. It's like I said, other towns have done it, and I don't know that it fits us, but it has been raised as part of the conversation in this discussion.
So I think it's less about enforcing something and it's more about incentivizing
Encouraging and
and encouraging. So
Absolutely.
what have you seen done in other municipalities for incentives for businesses to be open during shoulder season?
Incentives is tough to find.
Yeah,
It really is, because most of the towns, you know, to make his point, that have suggested things like that really come from a place of employee housing. You know, they have it, they offer it,
Yeah.
or the business owners have specific housing for their employees, or they live in an area that's more populated. So I haven't found any, to be honest,
yeah.
that really go with the population and dead end town that we have in the region.
Yep.
And, you know, it's something that's talked about, mentioned here and there, but I don't have an answer for what the incentives would be.
Are you saying that if you had 20 apartments for 20 people to work in town today, that the businesses wouldn't be shutting down for the winter?
No, I'm not necessarily saying that. I think it's just more a talking point at this juncture, because it's very difficult to even think about something like that with the lack of employee housing that we have. You know,
I don't
it's
think it
just-
matters.
Yeah, and it very well may not, but like I said, it was something that was brought up to me, and I just wanted to throw it out.
If the issue that we're trying to solve is we want more restaurants in here, if you guys give me 10 rooms so I can bring employees up, I'll open another restaurant. Can't do that. I work 80, 90 hours a week. I'm going crazy. But we have more hands, we can solve that problem real quick.
Right.
In town.
We're always working towards more options for.
Oh, well,
employee
I
housing.
get it. I know you can't just snap your fingers and make it happen, but that's a huge bottleneck in, you know, in this industry, in this system that we've got. You know, I've got people that are driving up from Fraser and I gotta pay them good and their gas, just like an open bar.
Well, we have across from the library. It says for rent. Last winter, people who worked in Granby lived here, and the bus came up every morning. 2 of them picked up the employees who lived in town and drove them to Granby. Now, I see that for rent sign there right now. I don't see why a business owner can't go to that telephone number on the bottom and say, I want 10 rooms, because somebody last year did, and they got rooms. I thought it was really kind of strange to see these vans coming in and picking up employee, parking right in front, parking in front of the library and everybody walking out, getting in and leaving.
And I think we all want winter business and year-round sustainability. I think what our argument is right now, we obviously don't have it. We don't have the influx of people. Mother Nature plays a big part in that. If there's no snow, there's no snowmobilers. What we're trying to say is we don't want our summer revenue tapped into so we can make it through those winter months. Do we want year round? Of course we do. We all do. And we all are looking for a solution and a way to make that happen by finding places for employees during the winter, but more importantly, by getting the people in to frequent the restaurants and our businesses to be able to do it financially. But not take away from our summer revenue. That's what we're looking for.
When you talked about your revenue being up this summer, do you attribute it to did you have more people come in? With more tourists than
Oh,
normal?
yes, every year it increases. Every year I've slowly built up.
Good.
And every year it happens, but it should keep building up, not going backwards. But yes, I believe this summer we've had more people.
Right.
We've also had a great summer. Last winter, not so much. We had 10 good snowmobile days. We didn't have the snow. So last winter hurt us. Yet again, Mother Nature throwing her hand in it. So we needed this summer. What will next winter bring? We don't know. I hope we get pounded with snow. I hope we get slammed with snowmobilers. And I can say there is at least 4 good weeks in the winter because of the town activities. Winter carnival, fishing tournaments, ski joring, the pond hockey. That helps give us that extra bump to get through the rest of winter. I'd like to see more of that in the winter.
Work on it.
I'd like to see Mother Nature snow on us too.
It can't help.
You don't have it in with her.
Don't, I don't. I have woolly bears in my yard and they did say it would be a good winter, so.
You know, and there was one year that Morgan and Dustin put on this big event. Now, granted, we don't need that big truck that was a monstrosity, but the entire town was cordoned off and they had fire dancers and we don't need some of the events that they did because that sword swallower was actually kind of gross. But if we were to do things like that, you got the people in the streets around the fire pits. They get cold. They go into the retail shop for a sweatshirt or they stop over at one of the locations for a cocktail. Those are the things, I mean, Golden would have their streets filled, or Evergreen, one of the two, where they have carolers and roasted chestnuts and just activities like that bring people in, even if there isn't snow.
Sure.
We have the Christmas tree lighting.
That is another one that brings people in, the Christmas tree lighting, but we still have that. If we can get more of that. What about putting on a parade of lights?
Turn them off and light them again the next week.
Right. Parade of lights. I remember renting a bus and going to 15 houses. What if we did that all the way through town? I'm sure if business owners knew it brought people in, they would donate an animated thing for the center of town to put on a parade of lights to draw the people in.
Trustees?
A lot of good ideas. That discussion is what,
So we already allow food trucks to come in for events, so whether that event is a concert down at Lakefront Park when a venue is being set up and they're providing that, or we've had discussions of people hosting weddings within town. where there would also be a food truck as their catering option due to, having troubles finding folks to play with. Would that be correct?
Yep.
How do you respond to the food trucks at the festivals and concerts? I mean, you've seen from previous ones that sometimes they don't show up. You know, and then we run into issues, you know, I'd always, with those, encourage, you know, part of our contracts moving forward with these, promoters and, folks putting on the events, that we require that they first reach out to existing brick and mortars to provide the food services for these events prior to them reaching out. And I mean, they're a traveling festival. They already have the same food trucks that go from one to the other, and we have the contacts. And that's something I definitely want to start with regards to that. That's gonna open it up to, these brick and mortar businesses to maybe be able to acquire a trailer. I mean, it's still a big cost to, have these brick and mortars have a trailer option. It's gonna, hit their bottom dollar, and they'll have to have another summer's worth of funding in order to even get to that. So that's something that, came to my mind when we spoke last time about it. And, you know, when it comes, we talk about the property tax and stuff like that, sometimes having, and this is not talking about food trucks in the right of way, it is talking about food trucks on private property. I mean, some of these businesses, if they don't work with someone else, they can't meet their bottom dollar, they can't make their property tax, their utilities, or anything like that. So without offering those options of private property, sometimes these businesses won't succeed. Not an example specifically, but I do see that without that second component possibly, that these other, we'll lose two businesses, rather than just the one possibly. So looking at it in the sense of being able to help out the landowner, property owner, ideally a business owner, all at once, with the current, you know, setup with the conditional use. I still want to continue those conversations. And then do we continue the conversations into developments where, you know, maybe a developer specifically has a spot on their plat for this, specific reason, is to eventually put the food truck in there. I'm not pointing in any direction, I'm just opening that door when it comes to, conversations, so.
Can I answer a couple of things for you?
Maybe.
Sure. The first two questions, the first one regarding the food trucks, when they come with an event, are as, part of the special event permit or the special use permit. So when they're allowed to come, and they usually do come with a map of how many and what that is. The purpose typically that we look for on the staff side is how many people come. And the AEG show, the Trampled by Turtles one, was a good example. The concept that they pitched to the town was the doors are closed during that 5-hour period. And the food trucks were needed to be able to support those 3,000 people inside the gates. When that festival is over, those people stay in town. And they use, that's the trade-off, is what that argument was. But to your point, no food truck showed up except the one local food truck that they called 2 days before because people started bailing. And it goes back to that point of the people that you can count on are the ones that are here. But that is one of the ways to be able to manage that. When it comes to weddings and food trucks, that's been considered a private event, much the same way as catering would be, as long as it is private within the confines and they're not charging. That was one of the things when Bert's wanted to do their 4th of July. The permit, they were able to give away the food without having a food service permit. But if they were to collect money, like a food truck, they'd have to have a food service permit. So that's kind of those two situations. In a quick conversation with Emily, we were talking about what some of those items are. And one of the things she said is I work for municipalities that require food trucks to be on private property. An agreement between them and the private landowner. Typically, it's limited to commercial zoning and permits are required to operate. I think an expansion of that goes to the discussion of how long are they open? You know, that's if, for instance, the rent that True Penny has is based upon what the renter or the lesser needs, right? On the trail, right? They figure that value, they need X number of dollars. Somebody made that comment of they need that extra help just to be able to make the double business work. I don't know if that's the case with them. But those are some considerations where currently, if you come with an event, you have to get them approved through a special use or special event permit. And then they are not allowed on public private property, and on private property they require a conditional use permit. Which means that the board then is able to evaluate the benefits of that use. Or not. And of course.
Thank you. Trustees, anything?
I mean, personally, I like the way it is right now. I think that if there is events that roll in that have locked gates, I think that it is worthwhile to have food trucks in there to provide service to all the people entering into those events and or concerts or whatever it may be. But beyond that, I don't believe that we have necessarily the infrastructure and or parking to support additional food trucks. Like somebody, I think it was probably Mickey had mentioned, where you're gonna park them all down by the lake, you know, and then just block everybody's view. It's a good point, because that's about the only place that they could really go. And I don't think that that's a worthy idea. To just to bring a few things up that were mentioned earlier.
So many ways. And get a permission slip.
Bathrooms were mentioned, you know, use of public facilities. It's a solid point, but there's also several businesses offhand that provide food and or drink items already that don't have bathrooms for their customers. And that essentially falls into Town Grand Lake Public Works, you know, hands and taking care of that, you know. Although it's the sweet shops and Bianchi's, that I don't recall if they actually have a bathroom anymore. That I know that they used to, but I don't think they're using that. You know, that is a valid concern. It's they're kind of getting away with, including those businesses as well, kind of getting away with having a lesser water bill due to the fact that the majority of their customers are actually using public restrooms and things like that. So there are valid concerns on a lot of ends of it. I'm leaning toward not changing anything currently.
Anything from our audience? Anybody else wanna speak?
I'll say something else.
Okay.
Bradley Hilton, 517 Shadow Mountain Drive. So the concept of if there were food trucks to be allowed on public property and then all of a sudden. There's going to be a long line of trucks coming over berthas and through the county to come take all the lakefront spots. I don't know if that's really based in reality either. As you mentioned, when AEG promoted an event here, which seemingly was going to have a captive audience. Inside of a gated venue, and none of them showed, most of them didn't show up, right? So. I think that if the town, if we developed a program to allow some type of food truck to operate, I think you'd be surprised that there probably wouldn't be a huge number of people just trying to jump on it immediately. Like there's a lot of logistics involved with operating a business up here, and I think they'd have to seriously consider that first. A lot of Denver trucks will operate out of commissary kitchens or maybe halfway out of their garage or something. And they're not gonna be very interested in running back and forth. To stock their business from Denver back up here. So. Yeah, I think that we would be lucky to have some people apply and actually be equipped and ready to take it on. But it sounds like moving forward, if there is any more discussion. And if you guys do consider, hey, should we carve out a spot down by the lakefront, maybe in the volleyball courts or in the dirt lot? Or to offer up to somebody who wants to operate for a minimum of 4 months, right? It seems like that based on the petition that was filed, that the main concern is businesses capitalizing on the busiest weekends. But if there was a thorough permitting process and appropriate fees that would maybe compensate for some of those regular utility bills that wouldn't be being paid, right? Maybe it goes into a fund. Maybe we do require vendors to pay a hefty fee to be here for 4 months in a spot, right? And maybe that fee goes into a fund to go towards winter events or something, to go back into the year-round economy. But again, I don't think people are gonna be lining up, like knocking down the doors to do it. I think that it'd be a slower trickle of that, for sure.
I think, like you've made some pretty solid points right there. I completely agree with you. If you were to put out essentially like, you gotta be open for 4 months. I think that you have, like you stated, drastically less interest in that. The feasibility of keeping the food truck stocked and or kind of pre-cooking food and stuff at your own home and then getting it here in the morning to be able to open that food truck is valid concern. I think where the majority of this and part of the conversation, the more concerning part of the conversation is that if we do open up the town to food trucks and we give out permits without any type of stipulations, that you have food trucks that roll up 2 times a month on a Saturday only. They stock up all their food in their truck down there. They drive up, they make $5 grand and they're gone.
And they treat it like a festival, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would say, at least to me, that, and Leona, correct me if I'm wrong, but the petition and the concerns and stuff that have been brought along with that, I feel where you're going with the short-term things, and I feel kind of where you're trying to come from, and I think that the bigger concerns are more like what I just described, as opposed to, even if it was a 1 month kind of permitting where they had to be here 25 days out of that month.
Yeah.
I see both sides. I don't know that. My personal opinion still leans back toward, like, if we were gonna do that, I don't personally think that we have the public property to set them up.
Yes. You may have a flat spot somewhere, but you don't have the utilities for them to do it properly. Yeah.
May I say something to that? First off, if you allow one, you're opening up the door and setting a precedent for others to come with the same argument. How can you say yes and then no, no, no? Second, how are they not held up to the same health department standards that we are being inspected? Commissary kitchen, yes, that would be viable, but to bring it from Denver, they can't do it in their home. That's against health code. And third, why should we open up our town property to give to them at whatever cost when you don't open it up to us? I'm not opposed to, if you're tied with a brick and mortar, going on their business and you're tied to them somehow. But to give town property to out-of-town food trucks, yet again, you're taking the business out of town. They're taking it to Denver. And the first time you say yes, you're opening up that door to more coming in. Because it's the new rave food trucks. And you're setting a precedence by going that route. That's all I'm saying.
And I would like to say, I think you guys have done a phenomenal job, and that was one of the first special use permits that we had to issue for that, and even in the old location, it was great, and it seems like you guys have done quite well over at your new location this summer. And between yourselves and the taco place, those are working really well, and I would be way more apt to continue to issue special use permits attached to brick and mortar type things on private property. Because I feel like overall it's less of an issue for us as the town in general than if we're trying to put it onto any type of public. So, yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and call the workshop so that we can be prepared for our 6 o'clock meeting. Thank you for coming. We appreciate this very much. We're always open to these discussions and these conversations, and Baxter, I'm sorry to see you on that side.
Oh.
I still liked you when you were over here. I still like you. I like you being over here. Anyway, we'll go ahead and adjourn this workshop, and we'll pick up, let's say at 6:10, workshop adjourned. Okay, good evening. It is Monday, October 13th at 6:08 p.m. I would like to call this regular meeting, the Grand Lake Board of Trustees to order. You stand for me, pledge allegiance of the United States.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, if you would please silence your phone or any other devices. Remember, we are recording. Any conversations you need to have, please take outside. Also, keep in mind with the new microphones above you, we can hear what you're saying in the peanut gallery, and it makes it hard for the recordings when there's other conversations taking place where you guys are sitting. So please limit those, and if you need to talk, take it outside. We appreciate that. The recordings will be available for review within the next 24 to 48 hours.
Appreciate it.
Do we have any other announcements? No. Changing things up just a little bit, and I think before roll call, I'm going to give my mayor's report. We've always done the mayor's report in the last item on the agenda, and I was spending a lot of quality time, I thought, writing my mayor's reports, but nobody was ever here other than the trustees, and I always felt like I had something to say or share. Maybe it wasn't important, but we decided that we do the mayor's reports in the beginning now so that you all who come and join can hear what the mayor has to say. So it's kind of poignant this evening that I wrote this before some events that have happened, so but I wasn't sure what to expect when I was asked to be the mayor. Watching from the outside is one thing. Living it for the past 7 months is something entirely different. The last few weeks have been more challenging than I anticipated. And I share that with you because conversations like the ones we're having tonight, ones that affect our community, businesses, homeowners, and visitors are never easy. That said, I deeply appreciate this board's commitment to listening with open minds and open hearts. And I want to thank everyone in the audience tonight. It means a lot to see so many of you here to ask questions, share concerns, and hopefully sometimes offer us praises as well. There's always a lot happening behind the scenes in the office, on the board, and in our planning commission. I do hear the gossip around town, see the posts on Facebook, and of course, get the calls and emails. As I've said since my time as a trustee, come to us directly. Every member of this board is approachable, as am I as your mayor. We're here because we care deeply about this town and its people. Our job isn't to push opinions, it's to listen to yours. As we head into the winter season, which it sounds like it may start this weekend, let's remember to support our local businesses that stay open year-round, shop local and dine local, and encourage our visitors and second homeowners to do the same. Those small gestures keep our community strong, connected, and thriving all winter long. We will now move on to roll call. We have one trustee who is absent. Oh, Jim didn't make it by 6 o'clock. Jim, we have one trustee that may still show he's traveling and trying to get back up the mountain. So at this juncture.
Also, I want to make a motion to excuse it, please. Move to excuse trustee Shoner and trustee Miller from tonight's regular meeting.
Second.
Second, trustee Mills.
Is it?
We're voting.
It's an aye
Full
vote.
conflict?
No. This is to excuse him from the meeting.
Trustee Kissel. Aye. Trustee Harrison.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland.
Aye.
And Mayor Request.
Aye, thank you. Conflicts of interest this time.
Alright. Trustee Kissel. No conflicts. Trustee Harrison.
No conflicts.
Trustee Mills.
No conflict.
Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland.
None.
And Mayor Request.
And I have none as well, thank you. Manager Goudron.
Thank you, trustees, members of the audience. The marina season has ended. The town marina officially closed operations on September 21st. The marina and Public Works did something that hasn't been done in, I've been told, close to 30 years, which is fill up the marina with our rental fleet first. It turns out that there is exactly enough room with about 3 inches to spare on either side to run 3 pontoon boats. And we were able to put all but 5 of the fleet into the marina for the winter time. Of those 5, 2 of them are going to be treated. So we'll only have 3 boats out in the elements this winter. September 27th was National Public Lands Day. The town participated with our federal partners. One of the things that we did in Grand Lake was to rebrand the Board CDT Trail as well as other conservation projects The picture here was about 10-15 people getting ready to take off down the boardwalk. The Amazon film production was a success. I appreciate everybody who was patient. One of the things that town wanted to be able to do with this opportunity was not only be able to bring Grand Lake into viewers' eyes. So a couple weeks ago on Tuesday and Wednesday, you might have seen some odd stuff in film cars around. The town did receive $7,400 in fees to be able to host that production. The Rainbow Bridge is completely refinished. It's part of the 5-year refinishing program. All of two of the bridges have already been stripped and refinished. And the Rainbow Bridge that is over the channel has a metal sheathing that has been put over the top that should keep that top in good condition for another 20 to 25 years. We also put new RGB LED lamps in 3 rows on the Rainbow. Those are able to be changed with seasonal looks. We got a big thank you from Judy Everly from Taking Steps for Cancer. She came to town staff and I pulled the mayor and a couple other board members, and we parked this 63 Land Rover out in front. You may have seen it out by the pavilion, so that people could take a look at that. They got $15,000 for this rusted 1963 Land Rover, and that's going to be able to send a lot of people down the mountain to get cancer treatment. So they really appreciate your letting them park that for more than 72 hours. I'll be attending the 2025 Small Communities Workshop being held at Colorado Mountain College in Breckenridge. The town's been selected to give a presentation on space to create Grand Lake. If anybody's interested in the presentation, I'm happy to share that. Upcoming event highlights: one in the past on Saturday, the Denver Symphony Chamber Orchestra delighted close to 300 people in the Rocky Mountain Rep. This tomorrow, happenings at the house, Jean-Claude Cavallera will be there. Witch class in pottery at the Pitkin House on the 14th and the 21st. Pastapalooza at the Juniper Library, and at the Community House, Lunch and Learn on the 24th. The town's second annual Ghost and Gorge gathering will be at Townsburg Park on October 25th. Next meeting is October 27th. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Moving on, we have public comments at this time. Limited to 3 minutes for everyone's comments. We have, excuse me. Our clock up above, if you would please honor that, as we have a lot on the agenda this evening. And at this time, the board will not discuss or debate these items, nor will the board make decisions on the items presented. Rather, the board will refer the items to staff for follow-up. If any member wishes to make comments regarding items up for decision by the Board of Trustees on the agenda, time will be allocated at the beginning of each non-quasi judicial item. For items of a quasi-judicial nature, time will be allocated during the public hearing conducted for that time. If you'll please notice the clock again. Anyone that would like to come up and speak, please state your name and address for the record.
And I would like to make a note for those who have joined us just for this evening's meeting, that from 4:30 until 6 o'clock, we did have a workshop on food trucks. I know many of you are here interested and want to give the town comment on that as well. We do have some time specifically allocated for a couple business owners, but I would like the rest of you, since it is not on the agenda, feel free to come up and use the 3-minute period of time if you want to speak about the food trucks, because we won't be talking about it anymore.
Thank
This is it.
Okay.
If you'd like to speak come up and state your name and address for the record.
Gary Jackson, 523 County Road 469, and the owner of Grand Pizza. So, one of the things that kind of got to me about, going around the food trucks is, it's one of those things that kind of seems to pop up out of nowhere. And I've had experience with the town making decisions without really notifying the business owners, and then you find out, oh, like Main Street's gonna be closed for an event that you had no idea was coming. So when I heard about the food trucks, it kind of was, I was worried it was gonna be one of those situations again where we won't find about it until it's already been voted on either one way or the other. And my thoughts on it is, it seems, you know, have no trouble competing against the other businesses here in town. And there's like 3 closed businesses as of right now. There's, you know, Dairy King, there's Wolfie's, and I know it used to be the Fat Cat, is closed. But, and we do have some small, like the smoothie cart and Taco About It, but they're kind of more permanent. And it just seems unfair to allow businesses to come up from Denver and take business away from the year-round brick and mortar buildings, where they're not gonna be here trying to survive all winter long. And so another thing that concerns me is, since they're based down on the Front Range probably, and that's where their tax base is, whatever their home base is. I know they're supposed to register another location for the sales taxes. But my concern would be if there's any follow through on that, to make sure that if they do collect sales tax here, that it comes back to Grand Lake and Grand County. A third issue I have coming up is just the way businesses are going, and just the what the no, I'm having trouble thinking here. I'm almost out of time, so I'm just gonna stick with those. But I would say again that I kind of disapprove of allowing food trucks in Grand Lake. Thank you.
Anyone else want to come up and speak?
I will. Isaac Elliott, 312 Park Ave. I'd like to speak on somebody who's saying with the, a lot of businesses being vacant. I think the reason for that is that it's really hard to start a business here and make it through the winter. I think food trucks would probably allow a lot of people who want to start a business. And maybe, you know, there's a lot of really great restaurants in town. We don't have a ton of variety, and I think it hurts us. Food trucks would allow us to have variety. It would allow us to have, you know, people having a jumping off point where they could start a business, you know, and they can just do it through the summer. They don't have to worry about rent through the winter. They can get a couple of years under their belt and then eventually move into one of these brick and mortar places. I've seen it a lot in other areas, and yeah, I think that's about my point. Yeah, so I'll concede the rest of my time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
on North 1015 Mountain Avenue. I love the dumpsters. I love your garbage. What you guys did with the garbage is perfect. For 20 years, garbage has been a problem. Now, pay as you throw works really good. Pull in, I love it. The only thing I would like to see is once a month, I would like to see cardboard being able to get picked up. a dumpster where maybe you have one guy there to collect money or coupons to put garbage, and that garbage is only cardboard, just cardboard. And that would be a big help for the people who live in town because everything we get is Amazon and we have lots of cardboard. I'd love to talk about it more, but I have two more things to talk about. Number two, could you please turn these up? It's really hard to hear what you're saying a lot of the times. If that could, the speakers could be a little louder, that would be great. 1 minute 50. Winter's coming. $400,000 RVs are coming. They're pulling 8 snowmobiles. They take up 60 feet. Where are they gonna go? They've been coming for years. They've been parking behind the lariat. They're leaving their generators run all night long to keep heat going. That's gone. They don't know it. They're still gonna come. Where are they gonna park? Somebody will say, oh, they can park at the school. Those people who have $800,000 worth of equipment and stuff are not gonna walk downtown. They need a place to park. Are you gonna park it on Park Avenue? Let's take up 9 spaces. It's gonna be a problem. Now, what's gonna happen? You're gonna go up a street where we have new parking, Mountain Avenue. I'm going to love it when I hear that generator running for 24 hours. And looking out my window and seeing the 60-foot. And 28 seconds to the next guy.
Steve, can we address the recycle real quick? Just give them an update on where that is at.
The state is still not,
So,
giving us.
Mickey, on the off chance you weren't aware,
I'm sorry?
on the off chance that you weren't aware of the recycle issue. We've been trying to get that going for roughly 2 years now. It's still kind of on a holdup, through the state regulation agencies, where they haven't made the regulations yet.
Well, they haven't started giving out the grants to be able to support it.
That is part of the plan down there. That is why that is actually a sizable location. Is for those future opportunities.
I'm gonna meet with, Sharon from the coalition down there, and one of the questions that I'm gonna ask is, perhaps they could bring a camp this way. That could be addressed, and, maybe somebody could even, take money for it. I would think that, up here, people might be willing to pay a few bucks instead of having to drive to Granby, so we'll give it a shot.
Can I have my 28 seconds?
Absolutely.
26, 25.
It took 5 years to move the dumpsters. Okay, it took 5 years to move the dumpsters. I'm just bringing it up, but really don't wanna wait 5 more years to get rid of my cardboard.
Thank you, Mickey. We will, as I did mention to you earlier, we will direct staff to work on both, or all of your concerns. Thank you. Anyone else like to come up at this time for comments?
Well, it wasn't about food trucks.
This is important.
Hello, my name is Donna Gore, and I am the building owner of Grand Pizza. I have some concerns about the food truck situation, because as a business owner or real estate owner in this community, my tenant pays water, sewer, and building expenses. I pay the property taxes. And it's a concern that you would allow people to come into the community. First of all, they're not locals, they're not living here, they don't have any commitment to the community. And we just want to make sure that you guys consider and try your best to make it a level playing field for those people who are part of the community, who are now having transient come in their food trucks, because we do know that that's what a lot of the food trucks are. Winter Park has dealt with the situation as well, so perhaps we can talk with the Winter Park committees and find out how it's going for them. And I do know that there are some locals that own the food trucks over in Winter Park. But they have a specific location where they're allowed to park. I think that the board should consider maybe having more local input into the decision before it's made. Where they're going to put them, how they're going to manage traffic. Are they gonna take spaces away from what our local businesses should do? And if they put them down on the beach, which is what we've been told, where are they gonna put them? We have a very, very small beach and a lot of people up here in the summer months. So, those are concerns that we have as well. And we just want to make sure, like I said, that you guys consider the local businesses and make sure that there's an even playing field here for the competition. I know that you're thinking about food trucks just being here for the summer months, but our local businesses are committed 12 months a year. And they count on their summer income to help them make it through the slow, tedious winter months. So please make that a consideration on your decision. Thank you.
Anyone else, public comments? Okay, I'm not hearing any. I want to go ahead and address just one piece of this. For those of you that have come in for the 6 o'clock portion, I would encourage you to go back. As I stated at the beginning of the meeting, these recordings are available within the next 24 to 48 hours. So you'll have the ability to hear a good portion of the evening between 4:30 and 6 o'clock where we discussed food trucks. And I did state during that time that there has been no decisions made. This was not brought up. A discussion of putting food trucks down at the by the lake or anywhere else has never been discussed really amongst this board. The only reason that it was brought to our attention was because we were getting phone calls asking if people could come. And the board needed to have this discussion so we know how to make this decision. So we haven't even gotten as far as I think many think we have. We appreciate your comments always. And as I also stated in my mayor's report, we have phone numbers, we have emails, and you're always welcome to call prior to hearing, discussing, or worrying about anything. This would also have gone to the public if we were going to vote on something. So just so you're aware, this is not as far along as I think it's been misconstrued. So I'll end with that. We're moving on now to the consent agenda. This is where the board considers tasks that are of a regular nature and for record keeping purposes. If a board member wishes to consider any of these items individually, that is appropriate to do so. We'll give the board time to look over and we'll entertain action after you ask your questions regarding consent agenda.
Trustees, this is probably the largest AP that I've asked you to approve in the last year that I've been serving in. So the vast majority of this is the first pay application for the Space to Create project. $178,000 will be paid out of the Colorado Creative Industries grant, and then $578,000 line item is paid at an 80/20 will be submitted that once the check clears, we have to have a check to be able to submit. The good news is that we've received go-ahead from DOLA to be able to process that request. Once the, through, we don't have to wait till the end of the quarter, so our cash flow will be much better. We'll be receiving $5,000 from Constitution Week, for their contribution. And we did receive $50,000 from the Veteran Foundation 2 weeks ago to support the payment to Wendy Homes Consulting.
Should we see more invoices from Wendy Holmes Consulting?
There is in there $55,000 we paid for with this one. The last piece is we'll get another billing for, they're putting together the applications. And what the criteria is, you'll be seeing that, coming up here. The goal is to be able to have those applications be ready, in January. So that, lease-up they'll start being accepted in March. For leasing in July.
Other questions?
How many payouts are we expecting for the mountain project?
The schedule shows a total of 5. This is by far gonna be the largest. This also includes, the payment for Gingrich, which is the Boston Bean building. They'll be here on site, they're scheduled to be here on the 16th to start putting up the makerspace. And that's part of that first payout.
MA Studios construction admin, what are we looking at there?
That's a part of the subcontract for Doug Decker. And the final work, he's on site as our construction representative. He's subcontracted through him. You approved that addition to the contract, that's a total of $103,000.
There's a significant amount more payrolls on here than we normally account for.
Yes,
Reason?
the way that the timing worked, for instance, this pay period is 3 pay periods, but as you mentioned with the revenue, we had 5 weeks in August rolling into September. So we had some large and the final paycheck for the marina that will be dropping off. This current pay is a little bit larger even than these. They've both been sitting at 85,000. This one's gonna be 102 because there's 3 weeks in the pay period.
Your heirs and associates here, is labeled as both planning and grant support. I definitely want that broken up into grant support and planning services, 2 very different,
Where the dollars are coming from.
2 different dollar amounts there, and that needs to be broken out in my opinion.
I'll split that.
It looks like 60 monthlies for Patrick CPA,
Yes,
13,000, which is
it's actually gone up quite a lot for the last 3 months, July, August, and September. That's because we've been doing all the catch-up work and we've been making sure that the budget's getting prepared. So all of those additional expenses, she's being charged by the hour. Currently, our cost to the treasurer's budget is substantially less than what the budgeted amount would be. I can give you a total year over year at the next.
I'd like to see that, because in the last 3 months, what I call a good portion of the salary, so.
And I thought I was still getting a lot of the numbers we used to be getting. Our regular meeting, hopefully are we caught up?
We are completely caught up. The only things that you haven't received the last 2 months is the distribution by industry, which is actually estimated hand pull, because we get a list of all the corporations that pay taxes, and then we hand pull those out depending upon what the industry we believe that they participate in. Everything else is correct. And we
Is that
have-
something an admin staff member could do and put together? I don't think it needs to be something that's really done by a very high hourly.
It's always been that person, because they're the ones that maintain those dollars. We pay a bookkeeper substantially less. They do keeping work and not that analysis. I would like to see more analysis coming out of the treasury to include separate analysis on all of our enterprises, which Space to Create will be an additional enterprise for 2026. And I do think that the board hasn't been getting enough detail on the individual enterprises. And I think that we should have that, the treasurer doing that one.
I mean, I'm
But not
talking
this
not the
person.
analysis, just the you said manual to build the reports, just someone crunching the numbers to build a report for.
All the reports are done, except for the one going through. She's finished all those. That's where this cost came, was recreating this, but they're done. It's plugging in numbers.
Board? Nothing else for me?
Mayor Pro Tem, anything else? Nothing from you? Mr. Ernstine?
No.
Okay.
I move the consent agenda for October 2025.
Have a motion? Second, please call the board.
Trustee Arnton.
Aye.
Trustee Patel. Aye. Trustee Mills.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sutherland. And Mayor Burkholz.
Aye, thank you. Meeting minutes?
That's for.
Oh, that is, sorry. Items for discussion at this time. We have, first, again, our delegation of business owners regarding food truck consideration. Leona, would you please pronounce your last name?
Gettle.
Gettle, thank you. I'm glad you did that. And Baxter Strong. Please come on up.
Hi, I'm Leona Gettle, 325 Mountain Avenue, as well as 1143 Grand Avenue. For the most part, I gave my speech in the workshop. But to sum it up for those of you who weren't here, we were talking about outside vendor food trucks. We're not opposed to food trucks that are associated with the brick and mortars, but we are fighting against food trucks being brought in all summer long, taking our revenue. We would much rather see our time and energy spent on winter activities to help us year-round people to sustain our locations and make it through the winter, not take out loans and not have to shut down during the winter. As the mayor has brought up that in her speech, which was probably written recently, as you referenced Facebook and all the other talk, you are approachable. I have approached 2 of you on board and talked to and didn't get a whole lot of information because it's in the discussion phase. It's not at the voting stage. That is why we're here, to let you hear our voice before you get to that point and make up your minds to move forward with this. Because you have this agenda with all the people who are speaking pro, but you're not hearing the con or vice versa. Since the last meeting, I did receive one more letter. I read you the one from Lincoln and Jenny at Mountain Foods, but Carrie Barnes, another longtime resident, business owner of several businesses, and I will hand this over to you as soon as I finish reading it, has also wanted to participate because she cannot be here. Dear Grand Lake Board of Trustees, I wanted to take a moment to be part of the discussion regarding food trucks being allowed in the town of Grand Lake. Since it is my understanding that several of you have already heard opposition to this suggested opportunity, my opposition is probably the same as many. The brick and mortar businesses already do not have a 12-month consistent revenue. Feast in the summer, famine during the off-season, and are thankful for the weekend events and pray for a good snow during a winter year. Many of you brick and mortar businesses understand the dollars and cents in this, as well as the unwelcome competition for those that are here today and literally gone tomorrow. Yes, living here, we get very tired of the same old choices for restaurants, no matter how good or friendly the food and staff are. But we support each other all the way, in good times and in bad. We are creeping into some very uncertain times ahead, where our guest count might be down for reasons out of our control. I believe we all want a sense of comfort from our town leaders moving forward. Instead of food trucks, let's bring back activities, family activities. Events that bring value and togetherness are the memories guests come back for. To have the town behind these type of events and gatherings are what would get my vote. Respectfully, Carrie Barnes. So, by now, being that the workshop was pretty much an hour and a half of all food truck talk and nothing else, I think we've established that there is a great concern in the community. When people come to you and ask or request, can they bring out an outside vendor food truck on a permanent basis on town property, because that's all that they have. We just want you to know how we, the community, feel. That's all I have. Thank you for your time. I'm not going to reiterate everything I did earlier. Thank you very much. You're welcome. And here is the letter from there.
We'll make copies. Give it to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barely enough people here for applause, great.
Okay, next item on our discussion, we've got consideration of lease renewal with Mountain Paddlers LLC. I was going to hand this over to manager who's on his way in here with printed copies.
Trustees, I'm going to be talking to you about a lease renewal for Mountain Paddlers, correct?
Yes.
As I was reviewing the packet, what you have is the 2021 lease, not the 2026 lease. So that lease is a good reference to show you the difference between the two leases.
It's in there as well. You have the, it's just, I didn't find it. Right there.
Okay, good.
We understand.
You can go use. I just wanted to make sure that we had the right one. Perfect, thank you. I pulled it up and I looked at it a few times. It's not. Yeah, the Mountain Paddlers Trustees. Thank you very much. Mountain Paddlers have been operating the town-owned kayak shack and providing gazebo for rental of 2 kayak racks and the use of the site to install a movable shelter for the exclusive use of mountain paddlers under a 5-year term since 2021. Staff has negotiated with the lessee a new lease, which includes a 5-year renewal term and an adjusted account rent accounting for the increase in the Denver metro area's 5-year consumer price index. What we did was the previous 5-year leases looked at each previous year's Denver metro area consumer price index. We took that calculation and adjusted the rent based upon that percentage of change. That percentage of change was anywhere between 2.8 and 3.4%. I believe those were the numbers.
Yes, sir.
And we looked at those rents, and then we also considered what the current operating, his operating expenses costs, as well as the beach scene with upcoming construction. As a result, it kind of goes for the same conversation of having our concessionaires be successful even through difficult times. And one of the things that I think we're all gonna recognize is that when that fence goes up around the Leatherwood property, there will be an impact to the lakefront. What we put together, we negotiated a lease that has specific monthly rents. They're specified for the 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30 seasons. In addition, there's an additional rent that is paid for the use of the 2 racks. It's done at the same kayak rental rate that we charge other people to rent, which is $150 for each one of those racks. That comes out to $1,800. Mountain Paddlers purchased the gazebo that sits over the racks there by the beach. Additionally, the owner now, Drew, he's really excited about putting down some roots. And one of the things that he asked was your consideration and willingness to negotiate a new lease at the end of 5 years, so that he has in his business plan a 10-year commitment to operate this in the town of Grand Lake, so that he can make some capital investments and spend more time. I've included a copy of both the previous 2021 lease as well as the 2025 lease, 26 lease for your reference. Let me know if you have any questions.
It looks like previous years, it's been 5,100 for the 4-month summer season,
Including the 1,800. Yeah, more like 3,300.
5,100 total for the.
Yeah. So this one, the first one will be 58.
Okay, so this outline here above is minus that 1,800.
Yeah, they add 1,800, correct.
It looks like we need to make an update here, for item 4. It says spelled out $5,100 and then
Thank you.
parentheses 5875.
Thank you. It goes back and forth 4 times.
That's these. We've got these separate numbers up here for 27, 28, and 30.
Right.
Through 27.
They'll be split in 4. Or
Do we need to include that breakdown for the subsequent years, or will we? I don't know, is that understood?
What was that parameter or the figure you're using for annual increase?
3.8 and 3.4 on the CPU, on the consumer price index, Jeff. I can pull that report for you that we.
Hello, trustee Shannon,
Late.
joining us. Do we make reference to trustee Schroeder is joining us now from his wonderful vacation?
A conditional use permit, a special use permit, or just a contract?
It's a lease
It's a lease.
and rental agreement.
Yeah, and so why wouldn't it be a condition? Because that's a, it's okay,
It's an allowed use.
yeah. You haven't found conditional use, any complaints and stuff like that in the past, or concerns?
And then he provides weather updates for our area. This year, he actually mounted a weather station that, our people use as well, helps them bring in boats more effectively.
Right here in that, which ones?
Yeah.
Drew Murphy, 1005 Lake Avenue. So just a quick recap, I've known some of you folks, Steve, 14 years, Mr. Shoulder, 15 years. But some of you are new faces, I'm a new face to some of you. My father and I moved here in 2011 and started a business, just he and I, out of this little 70 square foot kayak shack. At the time being used for storage by the town, and started this little business. We've gone through 15 years now with no complaints at all, and turned it into a very successful business where we now have 5 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees. As Steve mentioned, we met to discuss the terms of this lease, and I am agreeable to the proposed terms for the 5+5 lease. The reason I've asked for that, as opposed to the 5-year lease that we've done in the past, is, as I previously mentioned, my father and I started this business together. He retired 2 years ago. I bought out his half of the business, so now I'm the sole owner. He and I have always cohabited, but he has since retired and moved away. And I would like to purchase the property up here in Grand Lake, so I'm not renting seasonally every single summer. But that's going to be a huge investment, and with only a 5-year contract, it makes me nervous to buy a house to spend more time up here. But with 10 years, I can invest not only more in my business, but be comfortable in making a huge financial decision of buying a home up here to be more a part of the community long term. As Steve touched on, it was asked if there's been any complaints. I've never had any complaints. I've never had a single accident. I have 5-star reviews on Google, Yelp, and TripAdvisor. That's across the board. I'm also rated the number 2 outdoor activity in Grand Lake on TripAdvisor as well. I'd really like to be more of this community rather than just coming in, opening up shop Memorial Day through September 21st this year, and having a longer lease and purchasing a property would make that happen for me.
Thank you. We're glad you're here too.
Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
I did make a quick reference earlier in the conversation. This lease does include stand-up. This lease includes stand-up paddleboards in addition to kayaks. He purchased 4 this past year to try them out, and he's looking to purchase.
Well, we started 4 in June and added 4 more by July.
I thought you were saying he's leasing them from us.
No.
Oh, no, I own
I'm
the
sorry.
business and the equipment. I rent the building.
And the lease or the rental agreement includes stand-up paddleboards as well as kayaks.
Manually propelled single person watercraft.
That's the one.
May I have 30 seconds? I never do things in 30-second bites, so I will.
Here's one, yeah.
Yes.
I am board and mayor, Reed James. I don't know the address, but I live under the Christmas tree at the end of Main Street. The town has a wonderful marina, Headwaters Marina, and think what a blessing it is to work every day next to the owners, including son Logan of Miachi's, and to work next door to Drew and his staff. First class operation. Our public is so well served. They assist the marina, they assist our visitors. So I just wanted to say please renew his lease. He's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please. Yeah.
Jim White, excuse me, Jim White, 182 Coachman Drive, Green Lake, Colorado, 80447. So I've known Drew for probably now 11 years, and during COVID, he could not find any employees at the kayak shack. I had retired a year prior to that, so he and his father asked me to help out, and it was really a different experience spending the summer at the lake and actually being there day to day to see what goes on, and we really have a good insight to that. I would also add that they built the pavilion that is there because they used to have umbrellas, and the umbrellas would fly away, and sometimes in a dangerous fashion, never had an accident, but could have. So anyway, they bought and built that pavilion, and now the town gets to use that the rest of the year. So they've made that addition too. And if you put it in perspective, I don't know exactly how old Drew is, but if he came when he was 25, he's in his 40s now. So he's been a part of this community, like we've talked about, and I've heard all evening about the brick and mortar businesses and so on. So he is part of the fabric, and the kayak shack is fantastic. They, like he said, they've had great success in not only the service they provide, but the way they treat the people that come to Grand Lake, and many of those people have come back year after year. So I hope you make a good decision on this one. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions? Board?
Can you just clarify how the 5+5 works? I mean, I'm assuming it's where.
We would negotiate the amount again.
Oh.
What this does is subject to appropriation, the fact that we still have a kayak shack. I mean, that's a part of the unknown that we talked about. Obviously, our goal would be to do that, but what this 5+5 says that as long as the lease in those first 5 years, we'll renegotiate the second with Drew. And and I will do that, you would do it, would approve it based upon appropriations. It would be the same looking lease.
Continuation of the same structure of the lease
Yeah,
agreement.
we would look at the dollars at that time and bring those new dollars to you. I didn't feel comfortable making any kind of dollar commitments any further out than what this.
I'll entertain action.
Strictly on the 5-year lease.
+5.
With the 5 years based upon appropriation.
I move to instruct the mayor to sign the attached lease for a 5-year renewable term with Mountain Peddlers LLC.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Please poll the board.
Trustee Arnson?
Aye.
Trustee Casso? Aye. Trustee Mills?
Aye.
Trustee Shoner?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sobel?
Aye.
And Mayor Burgess.
Aye, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Trustee Costello, I made the correction to the language, so I'll be able to get that signed with the proper language protection.
Okay, next item that we have is a quasi judicial item. This is also a public hearing. Pass this on to Manager Cooper.
Thank you very much. Get back. I want to make sure that we talk about the trustee. This is a preliminary development plan for 900 Grand Avenue. Emily Weber is here with Ayers, who is the planner handling this item.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, Can everyone hear me? I just want to make sure before we keep going.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve, Mayor, and members of the board. Let me share my screen. All right. And again, just making sure that everyone can see my screen.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So tonight we have Resolution 36-2025, which is the preliminary development application for a 3-story mixed-use building located at 900 Grand Ave. I'm sorry, what was that?
Nothing. Go ahead,
Oh,
Emily.
okay. The applicant is 900,000 LLC. They do own the property. It is located again at 900 Grand Avenue on the corner of Grand and Ellsworth. The representatives are Kaylee and Will Wallison. The request is to redevelop the site with a new multi-story mixed-use development that includes a ground floor commercial space that is intended to be a tap house or some sort of brew pub with 2 residential units. So one on the 2nd story and one on the 3rd story. So 2 units in total on the 2nd and 3rd story. This is a minor development application. So right now, this is the preliminary review. There's a 2-step process. It's preliminary and final, both of which have review by the Planning Commission and the board. At final review, the application gets sent out to referral agencies and again gets reviewed by Planning Commission and the board. This application was required to have public noticing requirements, and so those went to the newspaper as well as property owners within the vicinity. This is the timeline of the application. So you all have seen this application before, but I'll provide a little bit of background. It went to Planning Commission on August 20th. At that time, the Planning Commission did recommend approval to the Board of Trustees with 4 conditions. Those conditions being that they apply for a conditional use permit at time of final application. This was because the mixture of uses, so commercial versus residential, the proposal has over 50% residential proposed in the mixed use building, and that requires a conditional use permit. So that was one of the conditions. The second condition being that the step back be implemented on Grand Avenue and Ellsworth Street. The third being that the applicant remove metal as a primary material. And then the fourth was a preference that the Planning Commission stated that had some architectural elements in the renderings that the applicant had shown during the public hearing on August 20th. So then on August 25th, the Board of Trustees reviewed the application. They did vote to continue the application to the September 28th meeting. This request came with, or I guess the continuance came with the request for the applicant to provide additional materials showing compliance with the step back and the material standards. On September 8th, the Board of Trustees referred the application back to the Planning Commission, and they requested that the Planning Commission review the updated materials. That was last week on October 8th when the Planning Commission reviewed the updated renderings. There was a motion to recommend approval to the board. However, the motion failed due to a tie vote. It was 3-3. So therefore, the application comes back to the Board of Trustees with no formal recommendation from the Planning Commission. And tonight, you are reviewing and making a motion on the application. Here are 2 side-by-side comparisons of the first renderings or the first version of the submittal that you saw. On the left-hand side and on the right-hand side of the screen, we have the updated submittal from the applicant. So this is what was recently reviewed by the Planning Commission. You all have also seen these renderings before. So nothing has changed since the last time this application was in front of the board. So last week, when the Planning Commission reviewed and discussed the application, they were divided on whether the application meets the street wall criteria listed in the town code. As I stated, there was a motion to recommend approval, but that did fail due to a tie vote. Part of the discussion highlighted that there is a central business district or a historic overlaid code change in progress that has not been adopted, and so therefore the application must be reviewed under the current code, and that was part of the conversation that the Planning Commission had. Here is the town code section that I wanted to highlight. This is where the Planning Commission was divided. It's town code section 12-7-4C, and then there's some subsections. But essentially, this highlights the street wall criteria. And the town code does state that although commercial projects should generally be built to the property lines at the sides and along street frontage, it is possible on Grand Avenue to soften this edge by the creative uses of intermittent pocket parks, landscape seating areas, terraces for pedestrian use, open spaces, and other safe areas for pedestrian comfort and visual interest, and functional pedestrian walkways, which form the transition between the street and adjacent buildings. So that is the code section that has been discussed over the last several meetings. And so I just wanted to have the language on the screen just to be able to refer back to. And so I'm not going to go over a complete review of the zoning regulations. We have all seen those in the previous packets and staff memos, and it's included in the staff memo from tonight. But essentially, it is a mixed use building, so there are commercial versus residential uses involved. And as stated, the applicant would be required to apply for a conditional use permit at final review. This is due to the proposed residential use being greater than 50% of the entire use. There is an open space requirement for mixed use buildings. This site is required to have a minimum open space of 35% or 1,750 square feet. And so open space can be utilized in the form of a patio, and that is what the applicant is proposing to meet that criteria. There are parking requirements for on-site parking standards for residential uses. So the proposed residential units are meeting those parking requirements by having parking, which is accessed from the alley, and then commercial parking spaces, which are given on a 1-for-1 basis for the commercial component with the adjacent on-street parking. And that's a standard code allowance currently in place. And then there are design standards, which include the step back from Grand Avenue and Ellsworth Street, some massing elements, which the town code states, reducing visual massing by having offsets and insets in place in architectural elements to help visually create a visual interest on all of the facades. And then material changes. And so, like I said, the materials have changed. The applicant is now proposing wood as the primary material with metal as an accent, which is listed as permitted in the town code. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions, but staff recommends that the Board of Trustees discuss the application and make a motion based on findings of fact from the town code. Again, here to answer any questions. I believe the applicant is in the audience as well, and I will open up the floor to the board.
Emily, I do not believe that the applicant is in our audience. I will check.
Okay, that was.
See if they're online.
Doesn't look.
Doesn't look like it.
No. Neither Will nor Kaylee.
Okay.
Okay, well, applicant is not here for questions for Emily. As a judicial. So we will public hearing now. We will open it up to public hearing now. This time. Okay, if anyone would like to come and speak? I'm not hearing or seeing anyone. I'll close the public hearing. And open it for discussion amongst the board. I do have a text message from trustee Schroner, who, I'm sorry, you're here. Schroner. Oh my gosh, from trustee Miller, Bob Miller, goodness, thank you. That he texted me just to make his statement because he was at the planning commission meeting and did vote. If you would like me to read that? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Sorry that I don't have it right in front of me. Here we go. Good afternoon, Mayor Berquist. I will not be able to attend tonight's Board of Trustees meeting. I did see the 900 Grand Ave project was on the agenda and wanted to share my feedback. At last Wednesday's Planning Commission meeting, I voted against this project due to the setback. I asked the petitioner if they would consider moving it to the boardwalk and they declined. Therefore, I voted against the project as presented.
Emily, question for you. From the last time we saw this, if I'm remembering the date correctly here. From the last time we saw it, when we deferred back to the planning commission, is there any physical changes to the structure since we have seen it come across our table?
Nope, no physical changes. The materials that you have are the exact same materials that you saw on September 8th and that the Planning Commission did review last week. I just wanted to add, this was part of the conversation from last week that there are some site challenges to the location or to the potential of moving the building up on site and closer to Grand Ave. I believe you all heard this as well at some point, but there is an easement and an encroachment from the adjacent property to the east. And so that was part of the conversation as well last week with Planning Commission.
Emily, did you attend that meeting virtually with the planning commission?
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't able to see any minutes or videos online from that meeting. Outside of the concerns brought forward by trustee Miller, is there anything else that you could highlight from that discussion with the planning commission last week?
Yeah, I would say overall there was positive feedback given to the applicant for listening to public comment, commissioners, board members. They've gone through a few public hearings, so there was comment from the planning commissioners that they appreciated the changes that were made and thought that the changes that have been made did bring the building closer into the expectation that they had.
Thank you.
These questions. Can you elaborate a little bit more about that easement to the property next door?
Sure. And this is just based on what I've heard from the applicant. So there is an encroachment. I'm not sure off the top of my head how far that encroachment is over the property line. And this is something that they were aware of, but they granted an easement to the adjacent property owner. Part of that was them wanting to be a good neighbor, the logistics of going through the legal process of, solving that dispute is, quite lengthy, and they stated that because they felt like it's been there for a long time, they felt comfortable providing that easement. So that does make the lot more narrow and more challenging from a construction standpoint to have a building or structure that is so close.
There's a walkway on the side of the bank, a covered walkway, and that's what encroaches.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that like how far over or
Right.
how much of the walkway does.
It'd be part of the roof or something, but.
And the walkway is, the roof comes over.
But I've seen it, so the difficulty is that the building next door, that walkway is on their property.
Yep.
It encroaches for,
A portion.
quarter feet, basically, based on the renderings here, that the roof extends onto the property, beyond the property line of 900 by 4 1/3 foot.
So that would limit their square footage on the front portion of that line, if they were trying to do that.
Trustees, I think, and Emily, if you can speak to this as well, a lot of this, discussion and the reason that it had originally gone back to the planning commission is because we denied it in the first place, and since that time, nothing has changed. So there isn't.
And I would just like to throw in, there hasn't been a denial. It's been continued and then referred back to the planning commission. So no formal motion
Correct.
to deny the application or the resolution has been made.
Thank you, the clarification.
By the town, but we did defer it back to planning commission who denied it.
Correct.
The motion was to approve the recommendation to the Board of Trustees. It was a 3-3 vote, and so the motion failed, and there was no follow-up motion. There was no amendment to that. So there is no formal recommendation to either approve or deny the application.
In the letter written from the applicant to the commissioners here, that kind of talks about the background basics. This has been updated from previous versions, but on behalf of the applicant, says we are grateful for the planning commission's thoughtful feedback on our designs, and we look forward to continuing the process in a way that ensures this project can both preserve and enhance the unique character of Grand Lake. Our goal for this meeting is to outline design standards that will guide our project. So in saying that, I would take that they are understanding our continued focus on the central business district and the guidelines we are trying to put forth, that they are willing to help preserve that character that we are looking for. It's from the applicant.
I think the question that I would raise is, again, we're dealing with the, as you stated, they stated, preserve this business district and potential for the historical district. And the point of contention has continually been that this building is so far back, set back from the boardwalk area. When they were asked, and Emily, you can speak to this as well, I was online listening. When they were asked by some of the commissioners if they could move the building forward, if that was possible, they said no. And then it was also suggested to them that if the open space requirement went away, that they would have more room to build behind the structure that would be more financially advantageous for them, and they were not willing to do that either. So really, the issue has become between the commission and the board, the setback, if we're wanting to move forward with the historical district piece, as we have done with other building conversations.
Can you bring up again, Emily, the specific language on the code that you had earlier in regards to the setback?
Sure.
All right. Okay, are you all seeing it?
Not
It exists on the screen.
not necessarily.
It's just small for you all. I can go through and tell you what it says.
Never mind, I do have it. I mean, you can go ahead for the crowd. I do have
Sure.
it.
So first it talks about what is the street wall. Street wall is the public space adjacent to the sidewalk and or street as a result of buildings being constructed to or near the front and side property lines of a site. The goal of street walls in the town is to continue the connected network of comfortable and inviting pedestrian paths that form the transition between the street and adjacent buildings. Creating a strong edge by defining the sidewalk and street. The proposed development minimizes small voids in the street wall, and where voids do exist, they are of such a scale as to create a better, more useful pedestrian space or walkway near the front and or side lot lines of a site. Although commercial projects should generally be built to the property lines at the side and along the street frontage, it is possible on Grand Avenue to also soften this edge by the creative uses of intermittent pocket parks, landscaped seating areas, terraces for pedestrian use, open spaces, and other safe areas for pedestrian comfort and visual interest, and functional pedestrian walkways which form the transition between the street and adjacent buildings. It is also appropriate to open up the street wall for a portion of the frontage to create areas of public open space, identify entrances, and make better pedestrian connections.
Thank you for that.
I'd like to add one of the pieces of this that was also discussed, Emily, and you can refer to this, is the comp plan had originally discussed. I know we talked about it at the board meeting, but just to remind that the moving these buildings to the front of the boardwalk has always been part of the comp plan several years even before. Steve was sitting here, but none of us were.
And I mean, while that specific code statement is, I can understand there's a little bit of ambiguity there, but softening these edges up to that and to make, you can go back to that side. Try to.
Sorry. Move them over, just scroll it, right?
He's playing Snake at yeah, identifying entrances, make better pedestrian connections. It says it is possible on Grand Avenue to also soften the edges of the property lines. I don't think interpreting soften the edges of property lines to me includes such a significant setback such as this. Yeah, I think in order to stay consistent with both what code currently says, as well as what I think we're trying to make more clear, this large of a setback does not meet standards. Now, I think since we've already discussed the open space, I don't know if they're just completely against it. I think that makes more sense to bring up for a variance or conditional anything. Yeah, the way I'm reading that, I think aligns with what we're trying to request from the applicant. Any other thoughts on that specific code statement as it regards to this issue?
Emily, could you answer a question for me with regards to the 35% open space? I know it terraces and stuff like that. Is it all on ground open space, or some of it found up in the building itself?
The open space on site is all on ground.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? If not, I would entertain action on this item.
I will move to approve the resolution approving the preliminary development application for 900 Grand.
Have a motion?
So
And I just, because we had confusion about this at the planning commission, you are approving the build, like as is that correct?
yes.
And we have, okay, please hold the board.
Okay, trustee Arnson,
Nay.
trustee Cassell? Nay. Trustee Mills?
Aye.
Trustee Schiller?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sova?
Okay.
And Mayor Request.
Nay. Thank you, trustees. I know this has been a difficult one, and I know it's also been difficult on the Wallisons, and so I appreciate your patience and diligence. We'll move on to the next item, also a quasi judicial, and I'll pass this on to manager.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This is a preliminary development plan for 1016 Grand Avenue and 1001, 1005, and 1007 Lake Avenue, commonly referred to as Leatherwood Development. I've got Josh Holhollow from Ayers, who will be here presenting this, and Emily will be running the computer.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve and board members. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, thank you, Josh.
Perfect. Thank you all. And
Can I interrupt? I'm so sorry. Was the
Go ahead.
public hearing opened for
Yes,
900? Okay, sorry, I missed that in my notes. I just wanted to double check.
I always appreciate you keeping us legal, but yes, the open and closed quickly because there was nobody.
Okay, sorry. Continue, Josh.
Thank you.
You're good, Emily. Good attention to detail. So thank you all, and apologize for not being on video or having the formal presentation for you. Just with traveling, I don't have the best service. So, but what I'm going to go through is just the memo that was in your packets. And I believe, Emily, if you're able to pull up the development plan that looks like Jim is handing around to you all from what I can see on the screen. So as Manager Gudrun mentioned, this is a preliminary plat and preliminary development plan for a new mixed-use commercial and residential project known as the Leatherwood Project at 1016 Grand, 1001, 1005, 1007 Lake Avenue. The property is zoned commercial. Currently, as many of you are aware, on the Grand Avenue side, it is mostly vacant parcel at this time, and on the other side of the alleyway along Lake Avenue is a combination of existing buildings and structures. As we heard during a previous variance meeting, some of those buildings are going to be relocated to other areas, and I'll let the applicant either speak to that more, or if the board has any questions for the applicant on that again. Additionally, a couple of the other buildings on site towards the east end of the property are going to be redeveloped as part of an earlier variance approval and part of the overall development plan. As we shift down through the staff memo, just highlighting that the property or the project does incorporate a little over 16,000 square feet of commercial space and 19 residential units that include a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. As developed and as proposed at this stage, the plans align with code in terms of the various requirements, open space, height, and those other elements. So no new variances at this time. In your memo, in the staff memo, is an overview of all the background discussions that have been had since about summer of 2024, when you all were presented earlier concept renderings and had the discussion with the applicant. And over the time, there's been various sketch plan meetings, there's been discussions regarding variances, all the way up until last week's Planning Commission meeting. Jumping down a little bit further in the staff report, we're going to talk through the staff analysis. As this is a preliminary plat and preliminary development plan, we're looking at a lot of these elements from a high level standpoint, making sure that the minimum dimensional requirements are being met and that there are no substantial items hindering the movement of the project towards the final plat and final development plan stage, where that will come back before you all. As such, we've looked at the preliminary plat. No substantial impacts here. There are a few items that staff are working on with the applicant just regarding formatting, as there hasn't been always a consistent preliminary plat design or layout when platting within Green Lake. So just working with the applicant to clean that up a little bit and incorporate a couple of the easements that were discussed by some of the referral agencies. And this is not an issue or a concern by the applicant. We're also looking at building height, and the building height does meet the code requirements. And what you'll notice is wall code's 35 feet with topography on the site. That's where it allows that additional 5 feet of height based on the building height definition and code. And so overall height of 40 feet in the elevation plans within your packet that were handed around, you can see that the buildings meet that. The exception, I believe, is it's the treehouse property that had the variance approval, and the applicant can speak to that more if there are any questions. Parking, the applicant is providing more than required parking on site for residential as required in code, and all adjacent on site or adjacent frontage areas are accounted for under code for the commercial spaces, and that meets code as well. Parking, as some of you may be aware, is one of the items we may be looking at or discussing a little bit more with the downtown guidelines. Either way that goes, the applicant meets the minimum requirements. With regard to open space, there is open space being provided on site, and it does minimum requirements based on the use type and the distribution of commercial and residential uses. The applicant, during the Planning Commission meeting last week, the applicant has worked on some revised plans. We won't be necessarily looking at those at tonight's meeting. I want you to be aware that the applicant has taken into consideration the potential of the downtown before their final development plan is presented to you all, pending approval of the preliminary development plan tonight. And based on a quick glance by staff, we do feel like this definitely continues the vision and the intent that the board has conveyed during previous discussions. Architecturally, this is another area that we'll continue to flesh out, but architecture, it meets a lot of the core requirements within code. A lot of the materials and items are being presented that meet code. Of course, those will continue to be refined. A couple of the items that we flagged with the applicant, and I would say Planning Commission also brought this up, to which the applicant acknowledged, as well as kind of the use of windows, especially on the upper floors, instead of having kind of that floor to ceiling window style, doing a little bit smaller windows with wainscoting and some other elements. When it was presented to the Planning Commission, staff does recommend approval of the preliminary plat and preliminary development plan as presented. During their meeting last week on October 8th, 2025, the Planning Commission did forward a recommendation of approval of the preliminary plat and preliminary development plan with a 6-0 vote in favor of the recommendation. As noted, the Planning Commission spoke very highly of the modifications that have been made over time, very complimentary of the applicant continuing to work with the town, and the Planning Commission also made the note regarding windows and just how those are being integrated within the final development plan. Again, that's a level of detail which we'll look at when we get to that stage in the project, pending your decision tonight. Before you is Resolution 46, 2025. And with that, I know the applicant is there and likely has additional information to present and available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. We'll go ahead and open the quasi judicial at this time. I do believe the applicant is here and also he's pointing to you guys. So please come up, state your name and address.
Second, excuse me.
Opening the hearing now.
Thank you, Mayor. Gabe Bello with NA Studios, the architect for the project, 315 Paget, Grandviews, of useful address of any. Yeah, thank you all. Thank you, Josh and Emily, for sort of driving through that. It'd be fine if you wanted to keep those development plan rendering images up there. We can sort of flip back and forth as needed for clarifications if they are. Yeah, so it's not the first time we've been here. I'm excited to be here again with yet another sort of new version of Leatherwood. Pretty major revision on this front. Essentially, you know, I'm gonna sort of break down some of the basic just updates that we've done to the actual project as a whole, but in general, we've obviously been standing here before asking for variances and sort of discussing a lot of unique provisions around this project. And at this point, we've fully developed a plan that's code compliant based on the current code in force and effect, instead of sort of thinking about maybe open spaces changing or et cetera. We wanted to just simplify this conversation so we can ideally move forward. We confirmed with heirs of the planning commission that the next stage, the final development review process, will be the one that contains a lot more detail in terms of architectural material, that kind of thing. I would say up front, we're absolutely going to continue to work with the board and the commission and the town to make this project something that is enjoyable and is considered an amenity and is generally a value add for the community. And on top of that, we're looking to provide, you know, new activated commercial space at ground level everywhere that these buildings exist on our frontage, except of course the sort of weird treehouse situation. And we brought all the buildings into compliance with building height, overall commercial residential ratios, open space provided on site. And with the help of heirs sort of trying to determine what topics we focus on for preliminary versus final, it's really sort of 5 major criteria that I think are most appropriate for this discussion. Of course, we can get into architectural detail. We can talk about that and bring that into final and et cetera. We will obviously be considerate of your feedback no matter what it is. But the big 5 from heirs would be the plat map process, which he mentioned will get refined into final. Building height, which as I mentioned, we're inside 40 feet for all of these buildings. Parking, which we have ample residential parking, more than enough on site. All of the residential parking is parked in garages off the alley, so as to not bother the public right of ways and to ideally not hinder traffic in that sense. And then our open space is at 35%, which is sort of our minimum working open space number because we're classified as a group 3 mixed use project in the code. And then the last big criteria will be building massing, right? And so it's kind of a dual discussion, partially about the street wall and the sort of horizontal layout of the building and plan, and also the vertical layout and the fact that after 2 stories, our upper floors step back 12 feet and comply overall with the intent of that code, creating view sheds, not creating overpowering masses. And all of the architectural materiality is absolutely intended to align with the code, so we're not looking at reflective metals and we're not looking at weird decorative, large metal elements at grade. We're not looking at monolithic planes of material, like 150-foot long building that has one dasher line, one siding material. We're definitely looking at different timber options, different stone options, and trying to make this thing resilient and organic and to set a good precedent moving into the future for more development in Grand Lake potentially. So with that being said, I'm gonna open the questions, happy to give you more specific numbers. Our commercial space has gone up by a couple hundred square feet. We've lost about 3,000 square feet of residential. And that's because the ground floor of our Lake Avenue building is now commercial, right? So all that square footage sort of transitioned that direction. We lost the commercial kiosk on Lake Avenue, or excuse me, on Grand Avenue. And in place of that is a couple large pedestrian community amenity spaces. They're not necessarily just fire pit plazas and large monolithic, concrete slabs that might be sort of shown in renderings, but they're an opportunity for multiple types of seating and gathering, and the general idea there is aligned with the street wall code section, where if there are breaks in the street wall, they provide functional, viable, activated pedestrian amenities. And yeah, I'm happy to get into some of that language as well, because we absolutely were looking at the code when we did draw those patios out front. So thank you all.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else want to speak at this time on public hearing? Closing the public hearing. At this time, trustees. Discussion, any question?
Is there materials list on any of these pages? I lifted everything, so that was something I was looking for.
There's this thing.
Yeah, I'll get it up, okay.
Yeah, at this point, it's just rendering with sort of palette. We haven't spent.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I was looking for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is this that rusted metal siding from Portal?
Yeah, so live rust standing seam. And the renderings are sort of showing that the accent materials are limited to the percentages outlined in the code, et cetera.
We're using 2x6 cedar or redwood material for the siding. Is that what I understand? Or is that just an example for the color palette? How are we looking at that?
It's mostly an example for the palette. The idea is that it's solid timber and it's not necessarily cement, composite, faux material, and it's sort of up for discussion, and we're going to be happy to bring in some physical samples and get deeper into that conversation for fun.
I think it's important just to remind everyone that at this time, the materials, thank you for providing those and walking us through those, but those are also final pieces. And Josh, if you could explain, because I know it was important to hear it at the planning commission meeting, exactly what our purpose is today. So that we don't find ourselves getting into the weeds of the idiosyncrasies of this project, but that we just really focus on our objective today. So that's it.
Yeah, that's a great question, Mayor. So and Gabe also alluded to this a little bit while he was presenting various items and kind of talking about what's to come at the next stage. So at the preliminary stage, what we're doing is looking to see that the building fit and the building fits within the lot, the general form and massing. Understand that there's some modifications and some adjustments that occur between preliminary and final. Getting an idea of materials in the renderings, just seeing like this is kind of the direction is going, but understanding that that is going to change and it'll work towards the final stage and work towards whatever is in code at that time. Making sure open space numbers, parking numbers, distribution of commercial to residential, height limits. So really looking at a lot of those dimensional elements as it relates to the preliminary development plan.
So am I correct, just to reiterate, that at this time, because we are in the process of changing code, that if we change code, that the applicant also has the opportunity to choose which code we will put in front of him during this project?
Yes, that is correct. If something changes in code in the middle of a process, the applicant has the opportunity to either stay where they are if they get preliminary approval and go under the existing code, or move under that new code. I will note that, as I kind of mentioned during my presentation, the applicant has worked up a revised development plan that would show pretty much, without giving too much detail, because that's not part of tonight's item, Grand Avenue mostly continuing that boardwalk across that whole frontage area. And design wise, blending in, matching that same design characteristics. So the applicant has looked into that and is very interested in what that could look like. But of course, that's very dependent on code and the process moving forward, since we will be presenting that all to you all here in a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, the
So,
22nd.
yep. So the applicant has that opportunity, and they are interested in that.
Thank you, Josh.
And I just want to remind the board too, as staff and everything, the applicant has done a great job of working with staff throughout this process with the various discussions, making modifications, adjustments, if a variance moved forward or didn't move forward, to continue that process forward and really being responsive to the asks of Planning Commission and the board over the past few months or many months.
And I think this board is very aware of I think the number was 11 times that Mr. Kreitzer has been in front of us, and we appreciate that. And knowing that he even has another plan out there that we may see at some point that is working towards the new code, I would just say, as the mayor working to change code, I do appreciate all that you have done. So just putting that out there. Thank you.
It's not gonna be anything like last time. I'd like to, essentially just reiterate what the Mayor said. Thank you. Yes, the amount of work that you guys have had to rework through and all of that, this one is a very, very simple ask. I appreciate all of your steps through, and even though we didn't agree upon all of the variances, there were some that we would have worked through. But you guys have come with a nice, easy book. Appreciate it. Glad to hear it.
On that note, would anyone like to move forward with a motion?
I move to approve resolution 46-2025, a resolution approving a preliminary plat and preliminary development plan for a new mixed-use commercial and residential development located at 1016 Van Avenue and 101, 105, and 107 Lake Avenue, commonly referred to as Leatherwood Development.
The motion
Second.
and a second, please pull forward.
Trustee Mills. Trustee Kazoo. Aye. Trustee Martin.
Aye.
Trustee Shutter.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Silva.
Nay.
And Mayor Burquist.
I thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you guys,
Your hard
really appreciate it.
So also the planning commission, we have one member here. Thank you guys. I know this has been difficult, and I appreciate all of this.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gabe, Scott, thank you guys. We will move on now to E. Another quasi judicial and public hearing. Manager Kudra.
Josh, I'm gonna take this one again, or Emily, are you gonna do this one?
I'll be
No.
doing this one.
This is a lot consolidation located at 107 Perry and 405 Mountain Avenue. Emily is gonna take this.
I got it on here.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. I'll give just a minute.
One second, Emily, please,
Mhm.
just hold on a second. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Emily. Thank you for pause.
All right, thank you, Mayor and members of the board. Tonight we have Resolution 45-2025, which is a lot consolidation located at 107 Perry Street and 405 Mountain Avenue. The applicant is Edna Stoddard, represented by Diane, her daughter. And again, this is located at 405 Mountain Avenue. It is zoned single family, and the request is to vacate this middle property line right here to create one approximately 15,000 square foot lot. So both of these are owned by the same owner. Both are zoned residential, and one has a single family home on it at 405 Mountain Avenue, and the other is vacant at this time. There is no site plan modifications being proposed at this time. It is simply just the lot consolidation. All right, so the town code has 5 criteria for approving lot consolidations. One is that it creates a legal conforming lot. This proposed lot consolidation does meet the required lot size and other zoning requirements as listed in the town code. The second criteria being that no subsequent lots are created, which this proposal is meeting. There are no subsequent lots resulting from this lot consolidation. The third criteria is that it does not adversely affect existing access, drainage, utility easements, or right-of-way. So the proposal is not changing any access points or anything like that. So it is meeting this requirement. The fourth criteria is that it does not adversely affect adjacent properties. Again, the property use and function is remaining the same as it is today, and therefore not creating any additional burden to adjacent property owners. And then the fifth criteria is just a clause that states any existing covenants or deed restrictions that apply to the existing lots will apply to the, one lot once it's consolidated. So I'm not aware of any covenants or deed restrictions on this property, but that is just listed as a standard. They are also required, or this application was required to go through public noticing, so it was posted in the paper as well as mailed to any property within 200 feet of the subject site. Just a couple notes I wanted to highlight. In their application, the applicant did state that the reason for this lot consolidation is to eventually or potentially create an ADA accessible access on site. Like I said, no modification is being proposed at this time, and they will have to go through a process to do that, whether it's administratively through approval by Public Works or through the public hearing process. That is to be determined. Like I said, there are no proposals at this time, but it could be something that comes up in the future. Town code does only allow one access per site, and so at any point in the future where the access is proposed to change, they would have to meet that criteria. And again, any change in access, because this is a corner lot, there are 2 different adjacent right-of-ways. This would have to be approved by Public Works. And then just as a note that no right-of-way obstruction is permitted. These are 2, again, it's a corner lot, so just something for the applicant to be aware of is that this is public right-of-way, and so it just needs to be unobstructed. There is an existing concrete parking pad that is encroaching on the public right-of-way because no site changes are being proposed, it's something that is existing non-conforming. But again, in the future, should an axis be proposed or a different axis be proposed, they will have to come into conformance. So with that, the Planning Commission did review the application on October 8th at their last meeting, and they did recommend approval to the Board of Trustees. So staff does recommend that the board discuss the application, consider the recommendation from the Planning Commission, take all public comments, and make a motion. And then the applicant might be online. They had trouble last time, but I'm here to answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Emily. I will open it up this time for the public hearing. And if the applicant is online, which I do not see. Anyone else have any public comments? Do you see anybody else on there then? Nope, it's okay, okay. Any public comments at this time? Not hearing any, we'll close the public hearing. Trustees, questions for Emily?
Emily, did you cover the sort of encroachment on the Perry Street right away? It's both street right of ways there. I might have missed that as you were talking there, but was that addressed by the commissioner or the applicant prior to?
So the encroachment is actually, there's a couple. There's the gravel road encroaches on that corner of the 107 Perry Street. So that is, the existing public access that is encroaching over. But then there's the private concrete parking pad that the applicant currently uses to access their site. And that's encroaching within the public right of way. So there's a private to public and a public to private encroachment, I guess. Because no site modifications are being proposed at this time, I don't recommend that as a enforcement mechanism. If and when the access is proposed to change in the future, that all modifications have to be in conformance. So on private property or within the public right of way for public access.
Emily, did we ask them to remove the tree stump?
Yes, I don't know what the update is. The ask was that they don't obstruct the right of way because this is a public access point. So I can follow up with the applicant on that.
Yeah, that would just be a condition of mine is that they maintain the current road surface as is in order to accommodate vehicular traffic, including, public works, applying in the winter,
Emergency services, yep.
Best too.
And so as that could be a proposed condition if that is something that you're looking to add to the motion.
Yeah, just with the stump being there, I don't know what their full intentions are, whether that's our property, we get to keep it, or, I just want them to understand that we were accommodating this with the criteria that they allow vehicular traffic to move freely through there, so.
Anything else, trustees?
Does this get mailed out to the neighbors?
Yep, within 200 feet of the property line, so of both properties of the subject site, they get a direct mailer.
No comments and response?
No public comments that I've received.
Thank you.
Anything else? If we don't have any more questions, I would entertain action on this item.
Move to approve resolution 45-2025, a resolution approving a lot consolidation located at 107 Perry Street and 405 Mountain Avenue.
Have a motion,
Second.
and I have 2 seconds. Please pull the board.
Trustee Cassell. Aye. Trustee Mills.
Aye.
Trustee Artsel.
Aye.
Trustee Shonner.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sabah.
Aye.
And Mayor Burgess.
Aye, thank you. The motion passes. Thank you again, Emily.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You as well. We have item F, consideration to select marquee signage.
Trustees, the final component of the town marquee is the return of the classic reader sign. Attached is a proposal from Lunsford Sign Works. The architectural design calls for three-dimensional sculpted back signage. Previous installation of the 2 town entrance signs that have been completed by Lunsford show the same sculpted materials. I have pictures of those 2 signs. As a background of the current cost, our budget was $165,000. In total cost to date, we've spent $134,000, of which $32,000 has been collected in sponsorships. The town received $12,000 and we were presented with $22,000 in sponsorships. The 3 options: the flat composite with flat printed graphic, the 7 to 10 year lifespan, $15,145. An example of that sign is the Mountain Gal sign. It's a flat sign that has a shiny surface on it. The flat custom painted aluminum plate with the flat graphics is the similar to that, except it has upgraded aluminum. And then the aluminum plate with 3-dimensional graphics, that's similar to what the Quacker gift shop sign is. The letters actually pop out. It's all still done in vinyl. And then finally, the 3-dimensional hand carved wood alternative is an actual wood sign that's carved as the other 2 signs have. The $26,000 bid would still be within our budget if you choose to do that.
This is for marquee.
Correct. Out
This is the
front.
sign that's gonna hang between the 2 pillars to the left of the walk.
Correct. It is signage and then it has a 6-line manual reader board, which is something that the previous boards have always wanted to have the letters go back up, that it's not electronic. So it's the same kind of signage as what's out on 34.
We have mention of what. I'm trying to remember how big this,
72 by 76.
is that somewhere in there? No, just.
Yeah, it was the very first line, yeah.
Awesome.
And the reader takes up, it is, it's the town logo, the soul of the Rockies, split in half with the reader put in the middle of it. Yeah,
One more time, can you describe that?
sorry, it's the badge, the Grand Lake Soul of the Rockies badge, the blue ones. Take out the middle that has the moose and the brown. So you have the mountains on the top half, and then the bottom half, and then the reader board sits in the middle where the busyness on the lake goes.
Is there an actual rendering of this?
Are you talking about this logo, Steve, just to confirm? Okay, so we're cutting that in half and stretching it out, is that what I understand? With colors to match, or we kind of keeping that red theme going?
The same, no, with the logo color. Blue and, or the gold on the top and the blue on the bottom.
What's the size of the space for the letters, I guess?
There's 6 rows, 4-inch letter. They'll allow 26 letters on each row. Whereas the other one is 4 letters.
Our current sign or 4-inch letters as well.
The ones out there are 6-inch letter. But because of the width restriction, we could only get 2.
The 24 letter combo.
Yeah. So that's kind of what it would look like. It would be kind of. The other option was a welcome on the top of it. So this would be a straight line. It'll be 9 feet off the ground.
That's what she made.
Hangs on 2 bars. They come down, those have already been placed on
And
it.
then we talked about lighting and stuff.
They're, we're getting bids because of some of the changes that have been made in lighting. What we're looking at is actually similar to the RGB LEDs on the Rainbow Bridge. That along the bars now, since they're not cables, they're steel back bars. That those lights could be put in there to create an alpine glow behind the animals. And then there would be lights on either side of the sign. The sign itself won't be internally lit. It would be externally.
And nothing's gonna hang over the boardwalk section, just
Correct.
so the north side.
There is a design capacity. There are 2 hooks on the part that extends out, but it's designed if a sail was wanted to be put in there. So 2 triangular down to the head of the fox or the coyote.
Okay, so like
a triangular sail, yeah.
Okay.
But nothing that'll go over the boardwalk the way the other sign did.
Does the sign swing?
No. It's
Looks
pretty
like-
solid.
I saw those mounting points in that. Sure.
Joel suggested welded steel. Not even any chance to hang. He'd like to see it completely welded.
No JB will.
And then we are also, I did speak to Michael's audio. So he'll be working on the installation of the speakers and the new microphones. Which those have already been purchased and they're in his
That's the
inventory.
contractor you already signed it on.
40, yeah. Back in May.
One more time on those numbers again, we've put in how much, one more time?
We, currently the last year was 94,000. And then we had 40,000 before that. Those are our expense dollars.
Nothing's owed anymore, we paid out
Correct.
all those, correct?
Yep.
And we budgeted in 2024, is that what I understand?
65.
And the Cougar sold, right?
Yes. That's how I got to the 22,000. Robert Thompson.
As we, in early conversations on this board, we had a signed plan kind of move forward. Something I'd like to revisit here soon. And I think this is where this conversation starts with material choice, and by no means does this have to match that material choice in the future, I think it should be a close mimic of it, you know, as we sign the corners where vehicles can possibly get done. Or the matching sign was to go to was kind of hold that same standard there, so.
You're for matching the signs together.
Three. The car do it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Correct, so we have the one. Yeah, at veterans at the highway boundary. At the marine, correct? Correct.
I entertain action as I like to entertain action.
I have another question before we do that. We have talked about logos and colors and things with the chambers logo, and then we've got our Town of Grand Lake employee stuff, and now there's a new stamp and a brand, and we've got the old brand.
So this represents the adopted brands for the town of Grand Lake. The seal is on the bottom. This is the logo, and then behind is the flag. Those are the three current adopted logos for the town. Go Grand Lake is the marketing piece.
Did we adopt those?
Which ones years ago? This was adopted in 2014, this logo.
Oh, yeah, no, I know things were adopted before. What I'm saying is should we have a holistic conversation with everyone as to what this looks like going forward, because it's been brought up numerous times, how we've got 4 different logos for the town, whether it's owned by marketing or owned by the town employees or this town or something else. Do we want to address that before we spend almost $30,000 on a big old board on the marquee that's gonna be there for a long time? That's after we do have this conversation, gets changed again. Because we're also gonna be doing the same thing with the large sign at the entrance to town eventually, because that was brought up and discussed as something we need to tackle eventually. I don't think we wanna have a different style and then completely change everything on the front, or we have these other 2 signs, one's in flickering for
It's been fixed.
oh, perfect. I go Beverly, so I don't see the lights in that. But is this a conversation we need to have before we invest more money into this? Does anyone else care? Jim?
I see that one more time, Steve.
We should have a logo that we all agree with. That's one logo for the town.
A logo, a font, some colors, a message, like you've got historic downtown Grand Lake, welcome to historic Grand Lake, then we've got Soul of the Rockies, we've got open year round, downtown village. You go to other places and it says, what do you say, it's like.
Well, it was like,
Colorado Alps of what do you say?
You're right.
if we have the option at this time to table this item and then plan for a workshop. Would that be a
Sure,
possibility?
we can work
What
with
is the
brand
what's the
new
timeframe on him returning this part? Like
6 weeks.
turn around from when we approve it?
Yeah.
I guess on that note. Are we needing signage before the end of the year?
I don't think it's a need if we want to have, a workshop and discuss the
Cause I mean,
verbiage.
even approving right now, we probably wouldn't have it up before like Thanksgiving or the tree lighting.
Probably.
So
But is
it's probably worth having a conversation or a workshop on it and see if it goes.
I agree.
So,
Perfect, everyone get all that own version and we all vote on it.
What do you want us to draw?
No, absolutely not.
I have no artistic drawing ability on that.
I do think we should table this, discuss it. I would like to spend these figures in the fiscal year 25 personally, so.
But yeah,
I give
I
this-
think this is a long process by any means, but I think before we continue to invest more heavily into something that, like you said, was redone 15 years ago, and we've got 100 different representations of what this town says right now. I'd rather get that dialed in, and make everything consistent.
I agree.
Well, let's, yes, do we have to make a motion to table or can we just, we do, so somebody please make a motion and. No, it's not.
By the whole big, positive.
I mean, it's still with the old logo. I make a motion to continue this discussion on the Marquis Stein bid until we have a workshop discussion in regards to our brand and logo for the town.
How would you like me to bring that? Oh, but we should deal with the business and the last one.
Second.
I have a motion in a second, please pull forward.
Trustee Shonner,
Aye.
trustee Mills,
Right.
trustee Arnson,
Right.
trustee Cassell, aye, Mayor Pro Tem Sylvan, Mayor Burgos.
Aye, thank you.
How much detail do you think? I mean, so I've got like 5 versions that kind of take some of these. Do you want that like a starting point for the workshop, and we'll put it on the next one?
Typically, when you go through and you build a brand, you kind of start with what the core foundation of what it represents is, and what that brand needs to represent, inclusions, like. A big question would be, do we need to include the lake and Baldy in our branding? Do we need to include winter in the branding? Are we going for, various things, and then with that, you have all the components of, we also need a brand stamp. Actual iron brand and all the components that comes with it. And then we've got our messaging. What is the saying that we keep seeing on t-shirts around town that's like, we're the Swiss Alps of the Rockies or something? Well, Seoul, the Rockies is one of those, but then we see all around town, we're the Swiss Alps of the Rockies, and then we're a village, and then we're historic downtown. And I think
A lot of that too is, like the lodge, people come up with their own saying.
Oh, totally, but I think as
That was the Alps, this.
from the town, we don't have anything that's consistent. Every single sign in town says something completely different and completely different font, colors, designs, conclusions. We've got the Indian, like. What is branding? What are we standing for? What are we trying to represent? And I think every dollar that we spend, $30,000 for a sign. I think we should at least make a little effort to say this is who we are and this is what we're standing.
We started that conversation and I think we need to get back to it and we'll set up a workshop to do so. All right, last item, consideration to appoint a budget officer.
This is part of the budget process. Historically, town managers held that a budget officer, while the treasurer has been responsible for the budget preparation and compliance. Comply with Colorado's local government budget laws, CRS 29-1-104. We need to formally delegate a budget officer. This officer is responsible for preparing the annual budget for the town. Budget officer ensures that the budget aligns with the statutory requirements and is submitted in a timely manner for adoption by the governing body.
Do we have somebody to do that?
Have we had someone do that before?
Yeah, the town manager.
Really, we're just effectively putting your name in here.
Yeah.
Correct? Just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
It took me a second, like when I first read it last time, I was like,
Yeah, sometimes they're that easy.
yeah. Yeah, right, like you're just trying to look way too deep into it. I don't know, that, yeah.
I'm going to appoint Michael Armstead.
I'm sorry. Can you vote on this real quick?
I move to appoint Steve Goudron as the town's budget officer in accordance with Colorado's local government budget law, CRS 29-10104.
I have a motion
Sorry.
and a second. Please pull the board. Trustee Renson.
Aye.
Trustee Shonner.
Aye.
Trustee Mills.
Aye.
Trustee Costello.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Silva.
Aye.
Mayor Burkus. Aye. The motion passes.
Thank you very much, trustees. To that end, I need all of you to commit the 4 hours between 10:20 and 10:24 to hold budget hearings. That will be next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. You.
That time frame again, 10:20 to 10:40?
No, I need no,
The
those are the
20th.
dates, the 20th to the 24th.
Somewhere in between there.
I prefer like 1 to 5 kind of time frame.
Okay, I was gonna say that's oddly specific.
So we're meeting tomorrow, correct?
And we'll be meeting tomorrow from 4 to 5:30 to have Antero's housing workshop and recommendation. That's the local planning capacity grant. We'll also be setting a joint planning and board for the downtown overlay on the 22nd. And that'll be from either 4 to 6:30 or 5 to 6:30, depending upon the planning commission meeting starts at 6:30. So if you guys want 2 hours to talk about overlay with them or an hour, you just tell me that frame and we'll back it from 6:30.
Now.
Yeah, I agree.
I know how. Conversations going.
My plan is to have Josh and Emily very strategic, laid out for us. They will be bringing specific items for us to discuss. So it won't just feel like a free for all, like the last time when we just kind of went around and talked about our opinions and thoughts and feelings. This is going to be more structured, and they're already working kind of with the code mental framework of what we need to consider.
And just for timeline, does this go to the planning commission and then us, if that's. We should expect.
Yeah, so they'll be planning to probably bring it the first part of the. If there's consensus at the workshop. So 2 decisions, timing for the 22nd, and then also consideration for budget hearings.
And your dates for that are.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday next week.
I would prefer somewhere between Tuesday and Friday.
Okay.
Or Wednesday.
Like Tuesday,
I'm open. I'll be out of town on Friday, so
Tuesday,
should we mess-
Tuesday's fine with you.
Tuesday is 21.
Mills will be gone, so.
Yes.
No, no, those are sorry.
No.
Bob, yes, Bob.
Yeah, Bob.
Alright. Michael, Mills, you gotta get that figured out.
Mills Miller.
Mills, Miller,
So 10:21 from 1 to 5.
We're gonna do that here.
Yes. Budget hearing, and then 2 hours for the workshop was planned, 4:30 to 6:30.
And when is no? Planning.
Planning is the 22nd.
You guys can leave early. When it's over,
What was the time of the plan?
4:30. On the 22nd.
Yeah.
Thank you for.
Hopefully there's a process.
Dates, 21st and the 22nd, right,
Time, one more time on the 21st.
1 to 5,
and then 4:30 and 22nd.
yes. And tomorrow, 10:14 is 4 to 5:30.
Items for future consideration, board.
That was minus.
That's yours.
We've got Brand. We've got.
stuff that I was asked just considerations.
And next,
For errors.
but
Is that yours or Antero? I forget.
yes, the splitting the grant and the cash dollars. I've got that on the financial side. And we'll turn up the speakers for Mickey good.
Showing up.
Just as long as it doesn't feedback.
I was gonna say, I don't think we can because of.
Are we moving? What is the next change in conversation?
The chamber
I give up.
is
Thank you, John.
2 more hours.
the, I met with Alan this morning. And, they did present for me for your budget. Kind of some considerations of their recommendations. When we have the budget discussions, we'll kind of talk about what it is. Their attorney and their board is recommending dissolution of the chamber, that will be presented at the general meeting at the end of this month. Upon that, their plan is to transfer the assets of the chamber to the town.
Everyone fair on that?
You'll have marketing.
So what does that
Budget
mean for us, I guess?
section.
Yeah. but-
So one of the things that I'll be bringing to you with the budget is kind of recommendations, Galen from Grand County Tourism, Jennifer from Grand County Tourism, Jennifer Brown, and she'll be the incoming president for tourism. And then Alan have spent several hours looking at what the costs have been to the chamber on actual costs. What's the actual cost to operate the visitor center? Some of those costs. And they've made 3 different recommendations. In addition, what we received last year is $175,000. Will be close to it. I don't have any real good answers except those that was,
I didn't know we already,
we haven't done any of that. That's what they're doing.
but confirmed.
That's what they told me. That's what they're doing.
So should we expect 2 more town employees based on this?
They make the decision to fold the chamber. That's the first thing. We have nothing to do with that.
But I'm saying that they already made that decision.
They're bringing that before their
Members.
members at the end of this month. So it's still pretty much up in the air.
That's the decision.
We have to decide what we're gonna do with it. It's getting pretty clear that we have to decide how to spend money and who's gonna manage that. And that's up to you guys. I'll bring you my recommendation, but I'm certainly open and we've started those conversations. They don't wanna do a DMO or run their own, so we're gonna have to figure out who spends the money. No, if it's done in-house. What I'm looking at is either you're gonna have an outside agency and somebody manage that, or you're gonna do it in-house like that. Pull the trigger on the spend.
Yeah, you hear that right? They do not want the GMO.
Correct.
Okay.
I forget
They
specific.
don't wanna do the GMO or they don't wanna run it.
So
It would be the same. There wasn't really much benefit, my understanding on the DLO.
the PMO requires them to have a board. And I don't know if they want to do that.
Are you as a manager? That's multiple extra positions, multiple staff members. I mean, at what point does this get to be too much for you to handle in your position? So that's where I'm concerned at is.
Well, and probably board responsibility, all of that, that fall.
And some of that,
Decisions and actions, but I guess it's also-
most towns on this side of the county, Winter Park, Fraser, and Granby have assistant managers. And those managers split up those work duties, so then the manager becomes more of the administrator. And is making sure that everything is properly handled, and then you have department heads that have multiple managers under them. We still operate with 20 people.
Say that again, we're not adding headcount?
No, that's, the head count is about 20 right now, not counting Marina.
So you're wanting to add in an administrative position in addition to whatever marketing positions are needed within the.
I think we could cover the administrative side with the positions that we currently have. Our community engagement manager spends 2 days at the Grand Lake Center, and it probably would be more effective for that person to continue to do marketing instead of front desk operations at the Grand Lake Center 2 days a week. We can probably find somebody for much less money to back up Crystal at the Grand Lake Center and to do the maintenance and that sort of stuff over there.
So it's gonna be a workshop, it's gonna be.
Yeah.
I mean, this sounds like.
We're running a workshop.
This sounds like a really large organizational restructuring in addition to trying to figure out what the role, responsibilities, and purpose of this marketing department. I mean, it's gonna be a department now.
If we added one at a minimum, if we added one person kind of, if you think about it, everything's been kind of working okay with an executive director of the chamber. In theory, that's the personnel that we've been using. So if you take that executive director role and turn that into a town role, you're still functioning. I'll be bringing you the presentation, like I said, they gave it to me in about 20 minutes this morning.
Yeah,
And I'm happy to send you guys the draft of that to kind of get your heads thinking about it. It is a net zero cost to the town to about an additional 200,000 to the town, depending upon what the recommendations they had, which is really us to have a starting point. It'll give you guys content to start having that discussion. And that's what the goal of this has been. It'll come towards it. It'll have to happen during the budgeting because we're gonna have to figure out how that spend is managed. And then the other important thing is that the actual dollars spent to marketing is being cut in half by county tourism. So that's marketing spend, that's $80,000 in marketing spend that's gone.
the county is taking away their funding to the chamber.
Because the county passed the rules saying that up to 50% of the lodging tax can now be used for ancillary services such as childcare. So tourism dollars are now being split in half. 50% is going to childcare and only 50% is going to marketing. So that $310,000 in marketing to the Three Lakes district is 170 this.
Where's this childcare?
Yeah, this,
I was talking to Patrick this morning because I really feel like we need a representative to have that voice. If they're taking away that much money and dedicating it towards childcare issues, we need to have a voice because we have kids here too. So that'll be another ask. Patrick Randall thought you would be very good mayor pro tem.
that being the liaison.
Yeah.
Or.
The Child Care Coalition.
You got it, Matt.
Do it. I mean, I can make anything, but.
It's important that somebody with young children is speaking for the people of Grand Canyon. Especially when it's millions of dollars to spend.
You mean this Michael or that Michael?
His kids are older than young. They're still young, but they're not young.
They're small. They're still small. They're actually older than they look.
The youngest was 23.
Axel's been called anything but young.
I would entertain action on one last item.
Move to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Please pull board. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all. I will forward you